Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, kings and queens, hermanos and hermanas. I don't know how exactly that goes. Brothers and sisters. Welcome to yet another episode of Wick TV. Oh, it's going to be a relaxed day today. It's not going to be terribly involved. I don't think this is kind of my break day. I have quite a bit of content for you this week, but I wanted to give you guys a chance to do some call-ins, and I wanted to talk about liberalism, what that is, what it entails, and why it's important. I want to kind of reflect on that a little bit because I think a lot of people don't understand what liberalism actually is. I think a lot of people have misunderstood what a liberal is, right? And the term's been misused all over the place for years, and it's got a lot of baggage attached to it that I don't think it should. And so we're gonna kind of go through, talk about it. We're gonna read an article I came across, very, very well written. And I mostly agree with it, right? In defense of what's the article here? How do we live with each other is the title of the article. We'll get into it. It's on a new publication that I've just been made aware of called The Argument, which is or purports to be a defense of liberalism. It's a liberal rag, if you will. Not lefty, right? Not progressive, but liberal. And we'll get into what that means, what the difference is, and all these things. Zephyr Hash, nice to see you. Zephyr Hash says, I'm liberal in my insults to illiberals. Based. Okay? Based. People just need to be proud to be liberals again. And I think we could do that. I think that a lot of the problems we have today in the discourse, and a lot of what is kind of unironically led to the rise of MAGA and the rise of Trump is this misunderstanding of what a liberal is and people misusing the term, misusing the label, as well as abandoning what I would consider liberal principles in the pursuit of political power or other goals. Some reasonable goals, some irreasonable goals. Audacity says Venus. Venus? I think it's Venus. Welcome to the show, Audacity. Welcome to the show. Oh boy, I'm just waiting until 6. I know I'm a little early before we kind of kick it off here, so bear with me. I was actually today, and I'll announce it right now, I guess. So I don't know how many of you saw my debate last night, but we crushed it. Me and you, Chris, did very well, I think. It was a debate on Christian nationalism against two gentlemen by the name of Mighty Marte and Eli Nix. If you would like to see how it went, you can check out the VOD from yesterday. It's up on my YouTube. I thought we did well. So today I get a text, okay? Speaking of that, Dwarf and Beardcrafts, today I get a text from Sarah, the person who runs the Raging Tomato. Apparently, Andrew Wilson has challenged me to a debate on Christian nationalism. Okay. He has decided to go one-on-one, okay? He won't box me, right? Fair enough. But he will come and challenge me to a debate on whether or not Christian nationalism is better for society than progressivism. That's going to be Thursday night, so at 11 p.m. Eastern, so very, very late. Because I had content booked for Thursday. Thursday's going to be a great show. We got 2 shows for you Thursday, but it's going to be an exhausting day for me, but it's fine. And I asked him to change it, right? I asked him to change it to liberalism. Is Christian nationalism better than liberalism? But he wouldn't do that. And I thought about it for a bit, and I was like, you know what? I still think, even though I'm not a progressive, and I I don't think progressivism is better than liberalism. I think liberalism is just better. I do think that progressivism, for its flaws, is still better than Christian nationalism. And I think I can defend that. And so we will be doing that on Thursday night. So tune in, and that will be fun. I'm excited to once again enter the ring. I always feel it's good to give people another chance, right? I'm 3-0 against Andrew Wilson, and he deserves a chance to at least try for OW here. So yeah, why not? Zephyr Hash for $5 says the debate was elite. I learned so many new things, like alcohol and cars are banned in America. High IQ debaters. Labor is also banned in America. Yeah, it was crazy. Okay, it was crazy. Jesus the Druid says liberals became illiberal. That's not entirely wrong, and we're going to talk about that today, right? Liberals didn't necessarily become illiberal, but they tolerated illiberalism to an extent that is more than they should have, and it's caused some real big problems. But we're going to get into it, and we're going to go through it, and we're going to talk about it. Erudite, actually. Not so erudite. Kyla, friend of the show, personal friend. Okay. Made a tweet about this recently, and I just agree with it wholeheartedly. And it's caused some discourse, so we're going to talk about that too. Nair Stalked says, it's because he found a loophole that he will stick to and won't move on from. That's the only time he debates people on anything. Here's the thing about like the style of debate that Andrew Wilson does. He has a dialogue tree. He has this kind of logic tree that he goes and will try to hold you to. But if you could break out of that, if you have a combo breaker, if you're able to kind of get him to the meat of the actual discussion, he falls apart. And I think I can do that. I've done it before, but you never know. He's not a bad guy. Like, he's not a bad debater, right? In his lane, when he is in his like zone, he does fine. I do expect it will be harder than last night. So yeah. Bumbling Bioengineer says, kind of wish we would just eject the old labels and make new ones, like Abundance Pilled is so much more clean than socialism. Hold on. Abundance Pilled and socialism. Do you think... What do you mean? Okay, now I don't know what you mean by Abundance Pilled, right? Have you read the book Abundance? I haven't read all of it yet. I keep getting distracted. I've read chapters of it, but I haven't read it front to back yet. But that is not socialism. It's all about deregulation and things like that. Am I missing it? Are you talking about something else? KO Dave says Hutch is stunlocked, so here I am. What did Hutch get stunlocked on? Bumbling Bioengineer says, what the fuck is progressivism? Going to be hell agreeing on that definition? Well, that's part of it, right? So I think what Andrew Wilson will want to do is he'll simply want to define progressivism as everything bad with modern society. So he'll point to pride parades, he'll point to degeneracy, he'll point to OnlyFans, he'll point to everything he sees as a flaw in modern society, and he will say, look, aren't all those things bad? Wouldn't it be better if we got rid of those things? Therefore, Christian nationalism is better because Christian nationalism would get rid of those things. But what that fails to do is we can look at all these policies that he says are bad, and even if I agree or disagree, under a progressive governance, these things can be changed. Like, you can have, and we have had historically, progressive societies, progressive cultures, progressive cities, progressive governance that did not have any of those degenerate things that he is very upset about, right? So we could look to the early 19th century, the early 20th century, and we could look at the progressive leaders of those eras and say, look, they didn't have pride parades then. They didn't have degeneracy OnlyFans then, right? So this isn't a necessary ingredient to progressivism. So again, right, all you're arguing is that we should do progressivism in a different way. Okay, fair, but that's a fundamentally different argument than I think Christian nationalism is better than progressivism. And then you'll have to demonstrate that. And I don't think he can, because the examples we have of Christian nationalism, such as they are, and first, everyone uses the term in very different ways. So I think a lot of the beginning of the discussion is going to try to ask him what he means when he says Christian nationalism. From what I've heard and what I've seen him say, he's vague about this on purpose. He really doesn't like trying to define it, and when he does, he'll try to sneak things in. So one of the definitions, I believe, and I'm paraphrasing here, so forgive me if I don't get it word for word. He says something like, Christian nationalism is a form of religious nationalism that is led by Christianity, which just sneaks in the definition of what is religious nationalism. Then what do you mean by that, right? It just takes it on another layer, and it becomes hard to kind of parse because he refuses to kind of give direct answers. And like his acolytes of yesterday, that was the most frustrating part of yesterday, is trying to get them to, okay, well, what specific changes do you want to see that would make us a Christian nationalist nation? What laws, what policies would you put in place? And they always do this thing where they're like, oh, I just want it to be more Christian. Again, how would you do that? If all you're advocating for is that our more Christian leaders get elected to office, that's liberalism. That's what you're advocating for. You're advocating for a liberal democracy. Okay, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. If you want that, you can do that without changing a single law, without changing a single thing about our today's system. All you have to do is leverage political power, convince people to vote for you, and voila, you have it. It's done. Liberalism it allows the structure for that to happen. But the problem comes when you ask them, okay, then what? Now you've been elected. Now you have power. How will you use that power? And that's where I think they'll fail to meet, they'll fail to demonstrate how that is better for society in general. But we'll see. We'll see. Hold on, let me answer this DM. I'm also trying to... 6 p.m. is my usual start, but I'm flexible. I'll ask Erudite when she's free. So I'm trying to set up a discussion, and we're going to get to that in a second. But I'm also trying to set up a discussion between Not So Erudite and this guy named Sid. $5 to Zephyr Hash to say, doesn't that prove Andrew Wilson's point that progressivism in the past led to degenerate things in society today, and what you have conceded are not good? The problem with that is that we've had a Christian nation, which I think he would agree to. And so, I mean, the Christian nature of America led to that as well, by that same logic, right? Conservative liberalism says horrible false dichotomy. Modern progressivism champions immutable traits, especially when they are intersectional, celebrates degeneracy while shaming discernment. Build your country on stone, not sand. I don't know if that's true. Like when you say celebrates degeneracy while shaming discernment, what do you mean? Can you give me an example? Nick's Never Wrong says they will try to argue what should be done. They just want to argue why theirs is better morally. Or they will never try to argue what should be done. They'll just want to argue why theirs is better morally. It just becomes a he said, she said type of deal, where I will make say, no, it's not, and he'll say, yes, it is. Nyerstalk says, would you vote for Mamdani or promote him to maybe get some lefties back on your side? I don't live in New York City. I can't vote for him. I don't want to promote him, though. I don't believe in what he stands for. I think he's a socialist. I won't promote a socialist. Real easy. I don't want any of them to win, honestly. If they could all lose, if everyone running in that race could lose, beautiful. A pox on all their houses. I just don't. It's a mayoral race of a city I don't live in. So it's not my choice. I don't get a say. I don't see why people are demanding people have a take on the New York City mayoral race. That's just silly to me. Would you vote for Mamdani or a MAGA if those were the only two options? I'd vote for Mamdani over Trump. Do I want Trump to take over that city? No. Why would I want that? Zero Fuck says, meanwhile, Sliwa has been pointing out the crime issue for decades. Conservative liberalism says shaming discernment with regard to making judgments, upholding social norms that make society flourish, accepting everything lets cancer spread, and Christianity isn't the only way to vaccinate against it. Look, I'm not a progressive, or I have progressive leanings in certain cases, but I'm not a progressive overall. I'm a liberal, which is different. Yeah, I don't disagree. But even with the flaws, I think, of progressivism, and I think there are a few, I still think it's better than a Christian nationalism, right? I think that the world would be a better place if everyone was progressive versus everyone was Christian nationalist. That said, I don't think either are ideal, and I would rather we live under a liberal system, because the beautiful thing about a liberal system, and thank you for this segue, one of the problems we've had historically as a species is we tend to kill each other over our differences. So there will be a conflict which will arise, a difference of religion, a difference of ideology, a difference of opinion, a difference of desire of ownership. So there will be like a dispute over who owns a patch of land, all these things, right? And there's constant conflict. And the general way historically that people have solved that conflict is through violence and force, right? That has just been the historical truth, that if you have differences of religion, generally, there are exceptions, of course, but generally it has led to open warfare. It has led to one ideology subsuming the other through violence and force, most often. Not always, but most often. Liberalism is the question, or is the answer to the question, when we have all these differences, when we have all these conflicting opinions, when we disagree on a reasonable level or even an unreasonable level, how can we live together and function together in a society without killing each other or without one of our ideologies subsuming the other? The answer to that has been liberalism. This idea that we allow and tolerate others to exist even if they have difference of opinions, and we have a system in place, a political and a legal system in place, that allows us to resolve conflicts with a minimal amount of force and a minimal amount of violence. That is not to say that there is never any violence under liberalism or that there is never any conflict under liberalism. There, of course, is conflict. There's always going to be conflict. You can't eliminate conflict. That's impossible to do under any system. But what liberalism does is it recognizes that conflicts will exist, and it provides mechanisms in which to resolve those conflicts without killing each other. Does that make sense? Detoa says American liberals armed to genocide. Minimal violence, LMAO. Oh, you're making this into a Israel-Palestine thing. Okay. Great. The problem with that is liberals aren't genociding anyone. And when you say armed to genocide, are you talking about when they give money to Hamas, or are they talking about when they give money to the IDF? Both would genocide the other if they could, right? Kinetic Pause says you let the political losers have some gains. It is always a bad idea in the long run to rule with your foot on your political opponent's neck. Yes and no. I do think that the fundamental principles that I think make liberalism successful is that it allows for three things: free trade, which means that the movement of goods across borders with minimal regulation and minimal state interference in allowing those things to do. It allows for free speech, which is the expression of ideas or the exchange of ideas with minimal state interference within that, and free elections, which allows localities and states and others to exercise their ability to express their vote and to vote to who will lead them, who will be their representative, right? And I think that these three principles are the core pillars of what makes a liberal system. And if you take out any one of these pillars, I think it becomes it becomes to varying degrees an illiberal system, and it becomes worse for the people living under it. Christian nationalism would take away all three pillars, right? It would destroy all three pillars, and I think everything would get worse. $5 from Audacity says the only IP I care about is the IP to Wix Discord server, which you can join for free. True. Should liberals suppress conservatism? No. Liberals should not be suppressing other ideologies, and a liberal would not. A liberal would seek to. So here's the thing: you can be a conservative liberal, you can be a progressive liberal, you can be a Christian liberal, you could be, I don't know, an well, not an Islamic, but you could be a Muslim liberal, right? You can be different things, but work within the liberal framework. That's what the liberalism does, is allows for this kind of framework where different ideologies can exist within it, can coexist within it, right? All it requires is this fundamental agreement, okay, to tolerate the other. The Big Nick says, what's a conservative liberal? What a dumb statement. Conservative liberal is someone who believes, a conservative person who believes in free trade, who believes in free speech, and who believes in free elections. That would make you a conservative liberal. Not only believes in it, but actively advocates and supports it, right? Zero Fox says, so do you agree with your placement on my Grok political compass chart? I don't know. I think I'm a little more left than that was, but whatever. Sage Outcast says, bring me a tariff debate. Well, look, you find me someone you want to fight, and I'll set that up. Okay. Salty McNulty says, does Christian nationalism leave any room for secularism in a legal and government system that is guided by Judeo-Christian ethics? Good question. It depends on which Christian nationalist you ask. Which is part of the problem I have with Christian nationalism, is the definition changes depending on the Christian nationalists I'm talking to. And Stephen Wolfe would have a remarkably different definition, for example, than the two people I debated last night. And they had differing definitions from each other. And so it becomes sort of this kind of catch-all term that is almost useless, right? But I do know that, again, Andrew Wilson has kind of still a vague definition, but a little less vague than normal. The Big Nick says, Wick thinks Brianna Wu is a lady, so what does it matter? Why are you guys bringing up Brianna Wu? Like, what's going on here? $5 from Audacity say the only liberalism in Islam is how liberal they are with the amount of stones they throw at apostates. The Big Nick says it's not a debate when your opponent is an intellectual munchkin. Look, is what it is. Detoa says, are you still getting paid by Brianna Wu? No, I am getting paid by my super chatters and whoever donates bits and stuff. So, I currently do not have a sponsor or a uh, anything like that. Greg Yo says, "Were those two guys Christian Dashless strongest soldiers?" I don't think so. But I will be debating one of its strongest soldiers on Thursday night. I will be debating Andrew Wilson. Andrew Wilson challenged me to debate, and I will accept, of course. I do not run from debates. Let's read a little bit of an article that I think is interesting. Okay. Let me get it for you guys. It's from a publication, pretty new. It's called The Argument. And a lady by the name of Jerusalem Demsas, I hope I'm getting this right, wrote a piece on what liberalism means to her. Okay. And I liked it. I liked this read. I think it's worth going through. And I think it's worth talking about. Because I want to promote more liberalism on my show. Okay. And I think that this is, at least this article, seems to be a fairly strong voice. I don't agree with everything in it, but that's the beauty of liberalism, right? We're all going to have differences, and we all tolerate each other's differences to an extent. Let's talk about it. Let's read it. Let's go through, and then we'll accept call-ins. So if you guys want to call in and talk to me about it, or talk to me about anything really, we'll do that. How's that, gang? Sounds good? Sounds good. Almost exactly 70 years ago, in the first issue of a very different magazine, National Review, the founder William F. Buckley proffered his classic definition of conservatism. It, and I quote, stands athwart history, yelling, "Stop." End quote. This is the most memorable line from Buckley's publisher's statement. But the whole piece, as well as the following page listing the magazine's convictions, is mostly a catalog of things Buckley et al. Opposed, like growth of government and communism. The magazine went on to help fuse conservatism into a movement largely by defining conservatives as what they were not, namely liberals. Obsessed with blocking change? Overwhelmed and anxious at the rapid cultural, technological, and political changes sweeping the nation? For years, I've criticized liberals for opposing growth, from new housing in their neighborhoods to new people in their cities, but revisiting how academics and thought leaders criticized, or sometimes praised, the conservative movement of the late 20th century for becoming defined by what it was not, it feels those criticisms could easily now be shifted against their former opponents. How seamlessly liberals have slotted into the place of the once conservative institutionalists. Some of us aren't even aware enough to be embarrassed by it. In a recent 5,000-word article in the journal Democracy, one thing that hasn't changed about the liberals is that we're simply never beating the word cell allegations. William A. Galston, a senior fellow at the Brookings Institution, had a less catchy but uncomfortably familiar definition of modern liberalism. Quote, "The defenders of liberal democracy are the true conservatives of our time, seeking to preserve what is good about the present as the best basis for future improvements." End quote. Sorry to this, William, but if this is best pitch that liberalism can come up with, it will not only die, it will deserve to. To transform liberals into mere defenders of the status quo is not just wrong-headed, it's wrong. American independence was declared in the name of liberal principles. Those same beliefs inspired revolutionaries and reformers around the world and at home. Liberal economics built modern industrial prosperity and developed social safety nets to provide for those who could not provide for themselves. Liberalism is why we have Social Security, clean water, and workplace safety regulations. And liberal principles are what made us the only nation in the world to define ourselves by what we believe in instead of just where we come from. The argument was created to reimagine liberalism for the 21st century, but it was not created to endlessly lecture about political philosophy and the global world order. The battle for America will not be won through historical analogies and 5,000 word journal articles from tenured academics. It will be won if we can convince people that the issues they care about are best addressed through liberalism. In the 2024 election, the American people demanded lower prices. What is post-liberalism giving us? Tariffs, gutted biomedical innovation, and a mind-boggling hostility to new forms of energy in the face of rising electricity prices. In the 2024 election, the American people demanded an end to immigration chaos. What is post-liberalism giving us? Chaotic deportations that fail to distinguish violent criminals from beloved neighbors, ripping American families apart. If I'm forced to name a silver lining, it's that liberalism is countercultural again. Donald Trump and the populist post-liberal right are in power. An illiberal hostility to basic liberties and a cynicism towards progress flourish, albeit in a less coordinated fashion, on the left. This is the moment to strike back. Got some Empire vibes, right? The Empire Strikes Back type of shit. Okay. The tragic iron law of our species is that human beings living together will differ in ways that they are willing to die over. Differences that they are willing to kill over. If you're lucky, the worst you'll ever feel toward another person is irritation or annoyance. But for most of us, particularly those of us with siblings, at some point we'll feel what can only be described as murderous rage. Liberalism sprang out of the unavoidable truth that there will always be reasonable and unreasonable disagreement, and that a world where people cannot live among those with whom they disagree is a world of chaos and endless cycles of retribution. At root, it is a philosophy that exists to answer one question: how do we live with each other? Over the course of working on this essay, the President of the United States has deployed federal law enforcement to march down the street where I walk my dog. A handful of large corporations are running full steam ahead to create a technology that no one really understands, let alone knows how to control. Untold thousands of civilians have been murdered in Gaza, and the United States has implemented a nonsensical tariff policy whose magnitude was last matched by the tariffs preceding the Great Depression. This is nothing compared to what we have survived. Western liberalism largely emerged from the battle-ravaged aftermath of the Protestant Reformation. Europe had torn itself apart in religious wars that claimed millions of lives. Exact numbers are evading the crack historical team here at the argument, but anywhere from 4 to 8 million seems to have died in the 30 Years' War alone. One boy, born in the middle of the deadly 30 Years' War, looked on in horror as he grew up in England. Nearly 3 decades after the Peace of Westphalia, John Locke published his treatise on toleration. It is not the diversity of opinions which cannot be avoided, but the refusal of toleration to those that are different opinions, which might have been granted, that has produced all the bustles and wars that have been in the Christian world upon account of religion, Locke argued. 300 years later, another philosopher was witnessing the aftermath of yet another war that had ravaged the European continent. Judith Shklar, who had escaped both Hitler's Germany and Stalin's USSR, offered one of my favorite contemporary definitions of liberalism. The original and only defensible meaning of liberalism is that every adult should be able to make as many effective decisions without fear or favor about as many aspects of his or her life as is compatible with the like freedom of every other adult. It's a good definition. I'm going to steal that. Yeah. Sklar's definition is more complicated than it may seem at first glance. Among the questions it raises for the philosophy heads, what counts as an effective decision, and how do we resolve that pesky compatibility issue? But its core point is simple. The basis of liberalism is liberty. At the argument, we believe in core freedoms to marry who you love, to read what you choose, and to speak your mind. But liberalism is not only about protecting people from state oppression. Unlike libertarianism, it also aims to build a government that enables individuals to live as they choose. After all, how can an adult make effective decisions without fear or favor if they have been denied an education, if they have no access to transportation between home and school, if they fear assault when they go grocery shopping, if companies exploit them at work. As University of Chicago philosopher Martha Nussbaum has written, when comparing societies and assessing them for their basic decency or justice, the question is, what is each person able to do and to be? We are not agnostic between all possible lives. Our commitment to individual liberties is not an excuse to wash our hands of judgment or devolve into moral relativism. There are better and worse kinds of lives, better and worse ways to conduct ourselves, better and worse decisions. But how do we answer the original question? How do we live with each other? Well, the ascendant answer to this question is simple. We can't. Sometimes this answer comes in the form of a joke. Remember in school they had kids separated, honors classes, regular classes, and slow classes? See, the problem with Twitter is they got us all on here together and we're not supposed to be. Okay. What was going on? What are we banning, Jenny Burns? What happened? More seriously, the belief that America is simply too diverse for all of us to live together is migrating from the subtext of fringe political theorists to the openly expressed views of the increasingly powerful post-liberal right. While Trump himself mostly leads from instinct, figures like Vice President J.D. Vance, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller, and political theorist Patrick Dennin are carefully charting a new vision of America, or rather a very old vision, invoking anodyne institutions like community, culture, and family. The post-liberal right argues not just that these institutions are good, which most everyone agrees they are, but also that individuals must be subordinate to them. They further believe that such subordination is natural, that we are intrinsically bound to the communities, cultures, and families we are raised in, even against our will. They even believe that such subordination is good, that we are better off not even attempting to forge a new identity that might reject all or part of existing institutions. It is no accident that obsessions with IQ, heredity, race, and gender essentialism is all rising at the same time as anti-liberalism. It would be a mistake to view these trends as a return to bigotry. It is more than that. It is the return of an old, tired, and powerful argument that people are nothing more than where they came from, that they can be held to account for the average properties of the groups that they belong to. The key to understanding this crew is that they believe people have too much power. Power to say no to hierarchies. Power to choose unconventional paths. Power to be different. And so the post-liberal right wants to make it harder to divorce, shows open contempt for those who decide not to have children, and is dead set on redefining what it means to be American in blood and soil terms. I'm largely focusing on the post-liberal right for a couple reasons. First, they are currently in power and represent the greater threat to humanity. And second, they are more coherently organized. This is not to let the post-liberal left off the hook at all. Much of my writing at The Atlantic and Vox has been critical of the rising anti-growth, anti-individualist parts of liberalism and the left. Whether it comes from obsession with tariffs, a suspicious love of localism, minoritarianism, and decentralization, antipathy toward open debate and empiricism, poorly reasoned anti-immigration attitudes, or just plain NIMBYism, post-liberal ideas have sprouted up from the furthest left corners of the internet to the center-left pages of the New York Times. To many, post-liberalism offers a compelling argument. Look at all the division around us, they say. Wouldn't it be easier? Wouldn't it be simpler if we could just be less divided? If people in our communities largely shared our common heritage? If more people made the same choices that you do? This is, of course, a bunch of horse shit. For all their obsession with Western culture and history, it often feels like none of the post-liberal right have done the reading. Remember Locke's reaction to European wars of religion? He was writing about the largely white, largely Christian, largely immobile countries of Europe, and even then he was seized by the truth that the diversity of opinions could not be avoided. He was correct. The citizens of ethnically homogeneous countries will find ways to divide themselves up over religion. Countries with religious homogeneity will find themselves divided up over caste. Countries with both will find ideological disagreements worth killing each other over. This is the central folly of the post-liberals. They cannot accept that at our core, human beings are individuals, and reasonably or not, we will seek to distinguish ourselves. During the Rwandan genocide, it is estimated that nearly 90% of the population was Christian. That homogeneity did not save them. Nor did the Greeks' shared history, common ancestries, common religion, and ethnicity save them from thousands of years of civil war. Ireland, East Timor, England, Sri Lanka. How many countries must face the same fate over and over and over before this ridiculous view can be finally put to rest? Well, once more, unto the breach, I guess. So how do we live with each other? There's not actually an easy answer. To live in a society where some people think your way of life is unholy while you think theirs is immoral is hard. Anyone who tells you different is lying. To answer this question is the work of this magazine. Join us and goes through, gives a site. If you want to check them out, and I think you should, I think they're worth seeing and worth reading, at least so far. You can find them at The Argument. It's theargumentmag.com, and it's a publication. You can check them out. I suggest you do. What are your thoughts, gang, on that? I thought that was well written. I agree with most of it. The guy who Audacity says the guy who wrote this sounds like a flaccid nerd. It's a woman who wrote it. So L's in chat for women, I guess. JPack says would have been perfect for that debate the other day. Which one? The Christian National one? Yeah, I mean, like, it echoes a lot of my sentiments. It's funny. So if you guys have differences of opinion, or you think that this was a silly read, or if you think that they got it inherently wrong, anything like that, please, by all means, call in. Today is a call-in show where you, dear viewer, can call in. We got a caller already. Let's bring them in. See what they have to say, okay? Hi, you're live. Hello. Howdy. If you're talking, we can't hear you, sir. Or ma'am, I guess. Hello. You got talking to the mic. Okay, well.
Hello.
Oh, you're here?
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay, what you got for us?
Thought it was a pretty good read.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Any further thoughts? Like, what do you...
I think a really big problem people have with liberalism, especially on the right, is that all these different people groups, but how are we supposed to let them live together? And the answer to that is liberalism.
Yes, I agree.
So the nice thing about liberalism is we have this thing called the public-private split.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have a bunch of different people who group together over a common interest or culture or subculture and are able to, well, live. And that's something that you don't get in collectivist societies, is subcultures.
I think that, and I think this was pointed out in not only my debate last night, but but the article we just read, and I think that we can also have, there's plenty of examples of this, is, again, people will figure out ways to have differences. Like, even if I snapped my fingers today and everyone was white, straight, Christians, and grew up and raised in America, right? We would, without liberalism, without that kind of foundational order, we'd end up killing each other over long hair versus short hair, over blue eyes versus brown eyes, over whatever, right? We'd find something to destroy each other over. And this has happened throughout history over and over and over again. No matter how homogenous a population is, no matter how culturally cohesive a group is, they often find a reason to devolve into strife and civil war. And this is always going to be the case. You can't fix that problem by making everyone the same. First of all, in order to do that, in order to go from where we are now, which is at a melting pot, to what people on the post-liberal right and left both want, would require a lot of violence, no matter how you shake it, right?
Mm-hmm.
You'd have to remove elements of society that don't conform with whatever homogeny you're looking for, whether homogeny of culture or homogeny of race or religion, whatever, right? You'd have to do one of two things: either convince everyone to be your religion if that's your goal, but then you get into things like you can't convince people to be white, right? So you're going to have to do something with the people who aren't white.
Yeah.
In the nation. And what are you going to do?
That's the thing about Christian
right?
nationalists is, well, I mean, yeah, they are racist, but if you look at the idea of, okay, what would like a Christian theocracy look like? Or better yet, like an Islamic theocracy, because historically Muslims haven't like killed people for their race. There have been systemic injustices with like Arabs being at the top of Islamic societies, but that's more so because of Arab colonialism and, well, spreading out than a ideology that Arabs are superior. And that's not to say that Islam and Arab people are the same. They're not. But if you actually look at like Islamic societies throughout history, a big thing they ran into is, okay, what do we do with people who disagree with us? And their solution was the jizya, which was a tax on the non-believers.
They also did. Let's not lessen the amounts of conquest that these people did.
Oh yeah,
as well, right?
They would also
they would come in with the point of the sword
and
take over large swaths of countries, right?
Yeah.
A lot of Europe was taken over at one point, right? And there was a whole.
Well, a lot of Southern Europe.
Yeah, that's what
my ancestors may have been Muslim at some point, because I'm Sicilian, and Sicily actually there was a huge Islamic influence on Sicily. I know Spain, there were the Moors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, a society like that, a big thing they ran into was, well, people don't agree with us. And it wasn't on the basis of race, it was on the basis of religion. Do you know Daniel Hikachu?
I couldn't hear the last word. Daniel who?
Hikachu.
Name doesn't ring a bell.
He's the guy he's like the hardcore Islamist who debated destiny.
That's probably why I don't know him. Frankly.
Yeah. He also advocated for child marriage like a year ago.
Oh, beautiful. Wonderful.
In his debate with Inspiring Philosophy.
I don't
Daniel
like Islamism, okay? I am against it. I think it has a lot of the same problems as Christian nationalism.
Mm-hmm. I mean, if it's basically like our Christian nationalism, but like without the racism. But worse in every other aspect.
I mean, I can imagine a type of Christian nationalism that doesn't have racism at its.
Oh, same.
Yeah. I think that's possible.
It's just the thing about Christian nationalism is that a lot of it is supported. They want to bring back America, and a lot of them want to bring back racist policies.
That's true.
Some of them even slavery.
I haven't heard the slavery bit, but
no,
I do think that
you must not have interacted with like Confederates like I have.
Maybe not, but here's the deal, right? And this is why it's really hard to have a debate on Christian nationalism sometimes, is because it's such a vague term.
Yeah.
That they're trying to do the same thing I think that socialists are doing, okay? Where they they like water down what it means to be a socialist so much that almost anyone would fall into that. And so people could look and say, I'm a socialist, and see a reasonable person. And then the unreasonable socialists can kind of be smuggled in on that. And so you won't hear socialist and think terrible, right? Because you'll be like, well, I know this socialist, and they don't want to kill all the landlords, and they don't want all these things. So socialism must not be that bad. And again, it gets smuggled in like that. And I think the Christian nationalists, a lot of that is happening on there. You have
Yeah.
the kind of like the people who are kind of acting as the face of it, which come in and say like, oh no, we don't want to change much at all we want is just more Christianity in politics. And isn't that a good thing? Wouldn't it be nice if everyone was more Christian, if we had stronger family values, blah blah blah. But what's being
Mm.
smuggled in is there are a lot, I'm not kidding, there are a lot of Christian nationalists who want far more than that, right? They don't want just stronger families. They want to enact blasphemy laws. They want to enact a purity, a religious test for those who can run for office. And not to mention, again, as I said in last night's debate, when we talk about Christian nationalism, the first question you got to ask is like, okay, which Christianity? Which type of Christian are you? Are you a Baptist? Are you a Mormon? Are you a Jehovah's Witness? Are you a Catholic? Are you Eastern Orthodox? Are you a Lutheran? Are you a Seventh-day Adventist? Are you a fundamentalist, Latter-day Saint? What are you, right? Like what kind of Christian are you? And that is going to like, if you are under the impression that all these Christian groups agree with each other on pretty fundamental concepts, you are just wrong. They will and have before killed each other over these differences. Whole countries have gone to war because different brands of Christianity had different interpretations of different things. I'll cite Mormonism, for example. Mormons were pushed out of America. They were driven out by the point of the sword, and their leaders were tarred and feathered. Their women were hung from the rafters, like literally lynched up in the streets and killed. And this was in 1800s in America, right? This constantly happens. And the idea that if we remove liberalism and try to enact this Christian nationalism, that would not happen this time, beggars belief. It's just, I don't know. There's just
Mm.
no evidence that it wouldn't just immediately degrade to that once
Yeah.
again.
And that's what I say to Christian nationalists is, okay, though, it's all fun and games until your government is inevitably subverted, like you did to liberalism. Because that's the nature of these ideologies, is they grow more radical.
Well, yeah.
And they do need to be kept in check by a democratic process and marketplace of ideas. I mean, a lot of socialists and even Christian nationalists themselves would say that we can't have a functioning marketplace of ideas. And I know there are other callers in, but I really just want to talk about the marketplace of ideas.
Real quick, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the whole idea, have you seen like the Jack Chick comics where it's like, oh, the scientists are biased?
Yeah, the D&D is brainwashing you.
He made a comic where it's like, where a bunch of doctors and scientists say that demons aren't real, but behind the scientists and doctors are demons telling the scientists to say that. Oh. So it's I find it really funny because it's stupid.
It's propaganda, but there are a lot of people who believe it.
It is.
And that's the thing.
But there's also a lot of people who believe it, especially socialists, that say that, well, humans are so biased that you can't really have a marketplace of ideas because we just take the information that we like and discard the information that we don't like.
That is a argument that people use, but I reject it. I think that the great thing about free speech and the marketplace of ideas, if you will, but I like to refer to it as free speech. I think it covers more, and I think it's a better description. Free speech allows a person to, without fear of government sanction, right? And in a more cultural sense, without fear of overt pressure by their peers, to be able to express their opinions without losing their job or without all these things. That's ideally kind of like the conceptual free speech. I'm taking this out of the legal realm and I'm bringing this cultural realm. So this allows cultures that value free speech more than cultures that don't tend to advance quicker technologically. They tend to have more freedom for the people that exist within it, and there tends to be less conflict, violent conflict, I should say, within those societies than there are in the societies that don't value these things, right? And the reason that is that it allows people and societies and cultures to better arrive or get closer to a truth about the world, right? One of the problems with Christian nationalism, and most brands I talk to advocate for some form of blasphemy law, comes into the stance of, okay, well, do you think that a government, any government, can ever perfectly interpret scripture, right? And I don't think that they can. I don't think that they can ever get there. So even in a Christian framework, you want people to be able to challenge current religious dogma, because what if the interpretation is wrong? What if your church's current interpretation is against what God actually wants for you and wants to say? And in that situation, if that is true, you want a culture which would allow the whatever is incorrect about whatever religious interpretation you had to be called out. And in that, even under a Christian framework, you want freedom of speech. You want people to be able to stand up against a pastor that is preaching heresy from the pulpit, right? You want a pastor to be able to challenge church dogma that happens to be unchristian and anti-biblical and wrong. You want the freedom to be able to do that. And it is the height of hubris to think that you, a mortal man, know better than God, right? And can know better than God. And if you believe that God works through man, right, and can work through its messengers, you want to allow the ability for a person, a group, or a church to challenge the current dogma of the day. So, yeah. Anyway, thanks for calling in. I know we got a little bit of line. Okay, have a good day. Hello, your life. I like the kitty avatar.
Oh, thank you.
Good avatar.
It's you know, cute cats just kind of take over your mind.
Yes.
Anyway, all right. So I got a couple of bones to pick here.
Okay, let's hear it.
So one, I'm truly as liberal as they come, and I mean liberal in the political sense, right?
Okay.
But I have a very strong allergy to progressivism.
Okay.
I just think that it's the party, it's the philosophy of wouldn't it be nice? And then how dare you disagree? How dare you put forth roadblocks on the things that are nice, right? It's too easy to jump onto a moral high horse regardless. Anyway, there's no nuance. There's no compromise. It's just either do this or you bad, right? And so the rise of MAGA is effectively the same thing. I honestly I lay at the feet of progressives the rise of MAGA, the vast majority of the blame, personally.
It does. It was a reaction to an overstep. Yes, I agree.
Well, it's an overstep without being called into check by its own, meaning the liberals, right?
No, I agree with that. I think the liberals, after the 2016 election especially, right? And obviously there was issues before, but we saw a rise of this kind of post-liberal right with MAGA, the Tea Party, etc. And they kind of shocked us when they won in 2016. Remember, everyone thought Hillary was going to win in 2016, right? We all thought Hillary had it in the bag. It was going to be, it was easy. It was just a a done deal. And then when Trump actually won, it shocked us. And one of the mistakes I think that liberals made is that they decided, you know what, these guys are crazy. We need to arm our crazies to fight them, to fight those crazies. So they gave a lot of super radical people the microphone and decided to listen to them and said, okay, well, we lost. Maybe these guys can win where we lost. So let's listen to them. And I think that it was a mistake. I think it just empowered the right. It allowed the right to say, look at what they're doing. Look at who they're listening to. That's crazy. Don't you think that's crazy? If you think that's crazy, you should work with us. And so I largely agree with you that the kind of like the rise of MAGA and how it's been going has been kind of a reaction to that mistake. But the mistake was a reaction to the rise of MAGA. So it's like it's reciprocal in a way. They radicalize each other.
Sort of, but what the real beef I have is that we did the same thing again with MAGA, meaning progressives would gain traction and say crazy things, and we would not check them. So therefore, MAGA did the same thing, and once again, we did not check them. Right? We hid behind it's freedom of speech. Well, people have a right to opinions, marketplace of ideas. Okay, like here's the thing. Here's the problem. It was very well established that you cannot use in liberalism, and now I'm not talking the political ideology, I'm talking liberalism, right? It is antithetical to liberalism to allow democracy through democratic means to vote yourself into oppression. Meaning, if we and this is kind of the boogeyman that's created about this is, what if all these people from the Middle East come here and they vote us into Sharia law? It's like, well, I guess we have to. It's like, no, there are safeguards in place that we cannot vote ourselves into
that's the
Constitution,
oppression, right? That's why we have a constitutional framework.
Yes, but
acknowledge that democracy can't override the Bill of Rights and these basic human freedoms. So liberalism has protections against that if we follow those protections, and that's the key, right?
That's the rub. That's the rub right there. If we follow them, we have not taken the Catholic nun ruler to the knuckles of either the progressives or MAGA. Liberals have not.
So what? Okay,
in any meaningful
when you say
way.
that, can you be more specific? What would you see done today? What would you have a liberals do?
Unfortunately, what appears to me is, here's the problem. We have allowed MAGA, and progressives have been doing this for a long time, but it's getting a lot more traction with the rise of populism, and populism is just the word. Populism is up there with among the worst ideas ever, because once again, it is just feel goods. Hey, who doesn't want to take care of their own countrymen? Hey, who doesn't want to put their own selves first? Hey, who doesn't? But so it's all slogans and vibes. There's no actual tangible within the realms of capitalism. There is no path forward for this. So here's the issue. We have allowed right-wing / centrist, which are just right-wing in sheep's clothing, by and large, to lie at mass scale for profit. And they hide behind it's the First Amendment. We've allowed them to just overtly lie.
When you say
for
allow,
profit.
what do you? Okay, so I think your advocacy, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that we should not allow them. So how do you propose we stop them? How would you? I'm just trying to figure out what is your advocacy here. How should liberals disallow them?
Okay, well, here's the thing. We're scrambling for a cure now as opposed to prevention. So this is, and your doctor will tell you this, all right? This is a life lesson I live by. Prevention beats a cure every time. And so instead of eating 3 double cheeseburgers a day and you have colon cancer at 52 and you're scrambling to find a cure for it, you prevent it. And since we failed, you know what, maybe I'll have a double cheeseburger once every 2 weeks, right? Because you can still have a little bit of, you let your hair down, go ahead, have some salt, have some fat, have some processed food, whatever. But now we're too late. Now we're scrambling to find a cure. That's why we are where we are. So now, unfortunately, we need to follow more of what the Gavin Newsom line of no. Here's dirt right back in your eye. We have to. It's like at a bar. A bar is out of control. And people are like, well, I don't want the bouncers to use too much force. It's like, well, it's too late at this point because the whole thing is about to just implode on itself.
As I understand it, Gavin Newsom isn't forbidding anyone from talking. What he's doing
No,
is
no, no.
simply
What I'm saying is he's threatening to redraw his own districts as just like, like, hey, if you guys
okay.
want to play
That
with
yeah,
fire,
that
we
has
will
nothing to
return
do with like
fire.
freedom of speech, though.
I know,
That's a
I know.
different
I'm
thing.
saying the philosophy is what I'm saying, right? It's just like it's now it's time for it is time for a big daddy, big brother element to severely punish people that spread overt and provable lies for profit and then hide behind the Constitution to do it.
Who gets to
Using
decide what's a lie?
who gets to
Yeah, who gets to decide what's a
the
lie?
well, I mean, obviously, people of institutional experts, and yes, that's knowing full well that institutional experts can get things wrong, but it's a hell of a lot better than giving someone like either Hassan Piker or Tim Pool or any of these other propagandist overt liars the opportunity to just profit immensely. Stephen Crowder, I mean, like
The
whoever you
problem
want.
the problem becomes, and this is I think the fundamental failing of your advocacy here, and just hear me out, is once you develop a mechanism, a tool, a law, what have you, in order to have the state or the institutions decide what is and is not a lie, eventually when your enemies eventually gain power, they will have a tool ready at hand to be used to decide who gets to tell the truth and who gets to tell a lie. During Biden's term, he proposed an idea that I think all the liberals immediately shouted down, and I think for good reason, that he wanted to do a disinformation board where the government would decide and label different pieces of media as either disinformation, misinformation, malinformation, and he had a whole like setup where the government was going to be able to label these different terms, right? And say this is disinformation, this is misinformation, etc. We shouted him down on that because we realized, like, could you imagine Trump getting a hold of that institution and being
But he
able
can just create it
to
on his own. He can
decide?
just create that on his own now.
But it's much no, he can't. He
He
can't
absolutely
because
can. Are you kidding me? Look at everything he's done so far that he's air quotes not supposed to be able to do.
you understand that he is fighting tooth and nail with the courts right now on so many issues. And if we had, again, already done this, he would have an easier path to do it. I'm not saying that he won't end up winning, right, in that, but what you were suggesting would make it easier for him to win. It would give him an excuse. It would give him ammo to his argument. It would make him not wrong when he said that the government is trying to silence your voices just because they're different. And it's very
It's not that
important
they're different.
that we
No.
stick to our principles. Hold
a
on. It's very important that we stick to our principles, not because it's important to stick to principles, but because those principles win, right? When you
but they
can
don't.
say
They're
and
not.
demonstrate you are better than the other person, more moral, people trust you more and they're willing to give you power more.
But they don't because they don't. Okay, the people you're speaking of that you say they value, they trust you. They don't. If somebody doesn't value evidence, what evidence can you give them to make them value it?
What does
You
it have to
can't.
do with what I said?
It has everything to do with what you
How?
said. What I'm saying is, yes, it does. What you said is, if we stand on our principles,
Yes.
if we act like the bigger people, people will trust us. But that's not happening. It's actually making it. It's
Hold on.
actually
You
backfiring.
recognize that we won in 2018, we won in 2020, we won in 2022, and the only reason we lost in 24, right, was because of we pushed out our candidate 3 months before the election. There was so much off with that like cycle to make a lot of these kind of extrapolations on reality based on something that was like a fluke, right? I think is a big mistake. You're making a mistake when you do this. When in 2022, for example, the DNC decided to fund and promote the more extreme radical MAGA candidates they could in their primaries, right? So the GOP had a bunch of primaries where they would decide who would be the representative that would go into the general. And so the DNC decided, and they made this strategic choice to promote and to fund and to kind of get elected the more radical candidates. And they did this knowing that the general election would punish those candidates. It would make those candidates harder to win. And it worked. In 2022, like, again, historically, the party that's not in power just runs the board with it. That didn't happen this time because the Democrats played its strategies, right? And were able to stop that from happening because they promoted the crazies on the other side. Like, so this idea that people aren't punishing crazies is just not true. Just not true,
Well,
right?
okay. Well, but here's the thing though, is what's happening in my estimation. What's happening? Are you familiar with tree borers?
Tree borers? No.
Yes, it's an insect. It's an insect. Okay, and if
The
like
bug.
out here in
The
the
buggy
West, they're
bug
common.
bug. Okay.
Right. So,
Does
but
it
here's the
bore
thing
into
though.
trees?
Correctamundo, but
Okay, it's in the name. I got it. I'm
it eats the
picking it up.
tree from the inside out, but it takes years to die. Okay, and so on the outside, it looks fine. It still sprouts leaves in the spring. They still fall. Everything, but it's slowly being eaten from the inside. And this rhetoric you're saying is like, look, it's everything's working, everything's still fine. But there are
Well,
evidence of the
hold on.
holes from the tree borers all over. All right.
Everything is not fine, right?
Well,
We
no,
are in
you're
a
no, you,
constitutional crisis right now because of what Trump's
well,
trying to do.
but you
But I think
just
you're
said,
overselling the. I think that you're misidentifying the cause of the crisis. I think that you're misapplying. You're advocating for something that will not solve the crisis, but instead make it worse. You are deciding
I violently
that you see a
disagree. Violently
fire and
disagree.
you have a bunch of gasoline and you're just like, okay, we got to put it out, and you're throwing gasoline on this fire and you're thinking, oh, that'll stop it.
Okay, what I'm saying is there are people like at the gun range and they are just shooting their guns all over the place, shooting it at nearby people's feet and maybe even clipping a person or two. And we say this has to stop. And you're saying, well, who gets to decide if what they're doing is wrong or not? Like this is well, who gets to
No,
decide the truth on this?
this
Who
is
gets to
not the
decide on whether
same.
it's totally the
It's not
same. It is
analogous.
absolutely the same thing. It is absolutely analogous
I
because
don't think it is.
that is oh okay, but this is the fundamental disagreement is what I'm saying. The severity of what of like the way I see the severity, the evidence I see towards the severity, the fact that there are people like Marjorie Taylor Greene in power. Are you fucking shitting me? Like that people, anybody would take this absolute nut job seriously in any capacity, and nothing happens.
What should happen?
I mean, it's the same thing that happens in my gun range
Well,
analogy. You eject them
okay,
immediately.
but you see the problem with this, right? You are asking that the federal government or some other institution be able to go into a local election and override it because they don't like the result.
It's not liking. It's what they are doing. It's the severity.
Okay, what has
There has
Marjorie
to be.
Taylor Greene done that would justify overturning the will of the people in whatever congressional district she exists in?
I mean, like, do we have the time, right? Like to go down the list. Like the moral of the story
Saying
is.
stupid stuff, in my opinion, is not enough to justify the
But what
government
about the
coming in and
effects?
overriding the will of the people in a democratically decided election.
What about the effects of the stupid things? This is the principal reason we are where we are is because of the effects of the stupid things.
The effect of your proposed cure would make the disease far, far more virulent and worse.
I listen. At this point, I, I'm prepared to risk it. I know the potential. I know I'm not disagreeing with the potential of what you're saying. What I'm getting at is the arm is gangrene. Stop trying to save it. The like we have allowed freedom of speech to be so abused, which I support, by the way, with you. I do, but I've witnessed it be so abused and so like people spread obvious lies that we have completely put ourselves into a cultural tailspin. Okay, in the event that the president of the United States actually gives props to someone like Andrew Tate, who's a sex trafficker and a pimp and a rapist, like what? Okay,
Yeah, that's
like
bad.
inviting people like Nick Fuentes to the White House, like this is my point. And then to say, well, who gets to decide on whether it's like no, this is out of control. This is completely without there is no taste. There is no class. There is no dignity. It is just everything that a superpower ought have, that everyone would agree by and large what a superpower of a worthy of the name that doesn't spill into an overt tyranny or an authoritarian state. You can be an authoritarian state and be a superpower, but you're not going to last very long because nobody likes tyrants. And with how much I love this country and I love the Bill of Rights and everything, and I'm watching and I'm watching it just be tree bores are in. This is what I'm getting at.
I
It's time.
understand your argument. I just fundamentally disagree that I think that this is a reaction to a real problem. I'm not trying to dismiss the issues that you bring up. I do think Trump and MAGA are a real problem. But my proposed solution, I think,
Give the severity on a 1 to 10. Give the severity of the
8.
problem as you see it.
8.
Okay, why not? Why 8? Why not 9? Why not
Because
10?
they haven't succeeded yet. They haven't actually overturned all the institutions yet. They haven't subsumed America yet. They haven't we don't have it just hasn't gotten to a 10 yet. It's still
So
bad.
okay, but
8 is still really bad.
That's my point, though. Is at the gun range analogy. Okay, he shot right by my ear, and it didn't hit me.
Okay,
So, but the fact that you shot at my direction is an H. No, the fact that you intentionally shot in my direction, and even though you didn't hit me, that's still a 10 because it shows real malice.
I'm not disagreeing with you that Trump and much of MAGA, Stephen Miller, etc., have a malicious intent towards America and the Constitution. I agree with you, but again, what I'm trying to tell you is I think that your proposed solutions are even worse. They want you to do this, right? You understand that. Like Trump and co and MAGA and all their allies want you to propose things like this so they could turn and they could point at you and say, look what the left wants to do. The left are just
they've been
like
doing that
us.
forever. They've been doing
yes,
that forever.
But it's not as effective when we're not actually doing it.
But yes. So we win a moral high ground there, but we lose everything.
I disagree. We lose everything. Again, as I said, I think this election was a fluke. I think we're set up to just sweep in the midterms. That's historically been true, and I think it's going to happen again. And I think we win in 2028 if things continue on the same path. However, Democrats and liberals and leftists are very good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. I do
Agreed.
worry that the more progressive side, the more left side is going to advocate for things like you are, right? And going to get so upset and be so reactionary that they are going to be...
Hold on.
That the general public... Let me finish. That the general public is going to see them as an equal or worse threat, and I'm trying to prevent that from happening. I am saying that the system is not dead. It still works. It's not perfect. It's got flaws. After we win, we're going to have to reinforce a lot of these institutional protections we have. I don't disagree with that. But the proposed solutions that I have heard you make today is that the federal government or some other institution are able to override a congressional district's democratically elected result because you don't like what the person says.
It's not that I don't like it. It's not an issue of preference. It's an issue of objective, measurable damage. Okay?
From Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. Yes.
What is this measurable damage?
It's it's all in totality. All right. It's not just a here's this, here's that. It is a more to the point of this the lies, what's the word I'm looking for here? Brainwashing effectively of a populace that has led to...
Hold on. Do you think that she did that, or do you think that she's a result of that having been done? I would argue that she is a symptom, not the cause.
Okay, but here's the thing. Even while you're taking care of the cause, you still treat the symptoms. You still suppress the symptoms. If you have a cold...
I just don't. I think what you're doing is we have a fever and you're sawing off our foot.
No, you see, but that's the thing. You're lying to yourself that it's just a fever. It's not a fever. It's not just a fever. It's Ebola. Okay?
Sawing off the foot still don't help.
Okay, but I'm not advocating to saw off the foot. I'm advocating to actually treat Ebola. And you're saying, well, hold on. It hasn't killed us yet. We don't need to worry about it. It's not as bad as you think because it hasn't killed us yet, because blood hasn't started coming out of my eyes yet. And I'm saying, but it's coming. And well, until I see it, do you understand? I'm still operating in the prevention thing because it's. All right. So here's let me see if I can clean this up a little.
Please.
There's a every nation on earth allows the killing of another human being to one extent to another.
Under certain
Agreed?
circumstances, it is justified to take the life of
Right.
another.
Okay.
Self-defense being the common one, yes.
Or law enforcement, right?
Defense of the laws of the land, yeah.
Yes, or the defense of the officer itself and the
Sure.
laws of the land,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, there's plenty of
Or the defense
patterns.
of other human. Okay, but so when I say we need to kill it, and you're like, well, hold on, you're advocating for murder. It's like, you know what? If I advocated for a gang member to do it, yes, I'm advocating for murder. But when I say a police officer should do it, that it's different. Do you understand? It's different, especially if it's in violation of the law. A gang member could see someone breaking the law and kill him, and that's still wrong. We would still frown on that. Is that you should vigilantism is not, we should not condone it, even if it's understandable, right?
Certainly. But you
Oh,
understand that we have a large amount of restrictions on our law enforcement agencies for a very good reason. We hold them
agreed,
and give them, we hold them accountable in ways that we would not hold the general public. We
agreed. But we
also
give them
limit their
flexibility.
power with all sorts of restrictions of what they can and cannot do. They can't. A police officer can't just pull you over and because he thinks that you are sketchy, just fill you full of lead. He can't do that. That is illegal.
Right, but
He will get
can
arrested.
you
He will
also
go to jail.
understand? Can you also understand though? At the same time, the same
But
logic works the other way.
my point is, right? My point is that there is a reason we put restrictions on what the federal government can do, even
And
though
when
we
the,
recognize that it is important that they have the ability to deal with issues as they arise. We again put checks and balances on this because we recognize that if a tyrant gets a hold of these mechanisms and they don't have the proper restrictions, they're going to run amok. What you're advocating for is removing those restrictions to deal with an emergency that you see as an emergency, which may or may be a real emergency. But what I am cautioning you is that the removal of these restrictions are exactly what the enemy wants you to do because they will use those removal of the restrictions as evidence that you are trying to subvert democracy, and they have no problem subverting democracy now with less restrictions on doing so. And
see, and
so the
I see it.
cure to our current issue is a return to liberal values and an enforcement of those liberal values through the cultural lens of things, like to make
Okay,
it
but
sexy to believe in free speech again.
okay, the way I'm summarizing this here is
Okay.
what I'm hearing you say is if a crooked FBI agent, like if he's trying to, I'm using FBI, but if they want to raid you illegally, it's like, wait a minute, they need a warrant. It's just kind of like, okay, well, he can just get one and he just has to wait. You're just delaying the inevitable. He's still a crooked agent. He's still going to invade you and be up to no good. I'm saying let's identify that this is a crooked FBI agent and waiting for him to go through the proper processes and channels in the event of trying to save something, not waiting for the carnage to happen and then being like, oh, well, now it's time to do something.
Okay,
It's
I'm not advocating
preventing.
that we do nothing. I am
Well,
just
no,
saying that your
but the checks and
advocacy,
balances are not. Listen, they can't hold forever because
true,
it's like
which is
water;
why
it
it's
will
very
find its way.
important that we win elections.
Agreed, and I'm not disagreeing with
Okay,
that.
and
But I'm
how
just
do we
saying,
win elections? By persuading the other side or persuading people, more people than the other side, that our governance will be better for them in the long run. What I'm telling
first
you
off,
is that by advocating for removing people's what the basis of what you're advocating for is to say, well, you're electing someone that I think is harmful, so I'm not going to let your vote
it's
count.
not that I think they're harmful. Again, it's obvious that they are destroying the fabric of our social structures.
Alexander Wren for $10 says, should we prosecute thought crimes? Thank you for the $10. I think that if a congressional district wants to elect a representative that I think is destroying, or even I know is destroying social structures, that my principle of allowing them the right to have their voice heard, even if I fundamentally oppose and disagree with it, is more important to uphold. Because when I start, nothing will erode social structures and erode our Constitution faster than deciding I know better and taking huge chunks of rights away from people.
Okay, but here's the thing: by going with the moral high ground, like you're suggesting, we are where we are because we've done
That's
it.
not true.
That
That's
is
the
absolutely
opposite of
true.
true.
It
We
is
are.
absolutely true.
Hold on. You, at the beginning of this call, said that MAGA largely won because of the excesses of the left, right? And
Well,
progressives.
no. No, the excesses of
Correct?
the left. It was no. I did not say that. What I said is we entertained the excesses of the left.
Which
The, the,
allowed MAGA
the,
to win, yes.
yes, but that's different. No. It's fundamentally different that we entertained it rather than because crazy is going to be crazy. There's nothing we can do about that, right? Crazy is going to do crazy, but are we going to entertain it? And we have.
By entertain it, what do you mean? Because what I
We,
heard you
we
say, and this is my interpretation of it, is that by entertaining it, we allowed them to kind of run the ship, to be more illiberal. So
we didn't check them. We
we
didn't put them in check.
indulged in illiberalism in
Yeah,
order
well,
to
no.
fight the
The
enemy.
the key point is we didn't check them. We didn't stand shoulder to liberals did not stand shoulder to shoulder and say this is stupid. We're not entertaining this.
Okay.
We took this mealy mouthed approach that
I
I
don't
hear a lot
disagree.
of.
But this
I hear a
idea,
lot.
like the biggest lie that people tell, right, is that, oh, we've always gone high when they've gone low. No, we haven't. Not for my lifetime.
Well,
We've
okay, but
always
no.
indulged ourselves in our basic instinct to the left, right, on the Democrat side, right? We've always kind of fought dirty because they're fighting dirty. There's been almost no time I can think of in history, right, at least from since when I've been politically aware, that we have. I still think we're better than the right by leaps and bounds, mind you, but that we've been this kind of, oh, we won't actually engage and fight and things. Like, we've been fighting for, like, since what's his face, Harry Reid. Do you remember Harry Reid? Right
I
back
do.
in the 2008, 2012. Like, he's the one
Yeah.
that got rid of the filibuster, at least for presidential appointments, which allowed Mitch McConnell to further erode the getting rid of a filibuster, which allowed him to install the the SCOTUS that we have today, right? If
Yeah.
Harry Reid hadn't indulged in this kind of more illiberal behavior, right, to fight the right, we would be looking at a much different Supreme Court today.
Agreed.
Yes, and that is my thing. Is like we have always done these things where we like, in order to fight the right, this real problem, we have to get rid or get rid of these rights or erode institutions or kind of introduce more illiberalism because we have to. It's an emergency, and it always bites us in the ass.
Okay, then explain to me why the Overton window is on opposite ends of the planet now.
When you say opposite ends of the Overton window, like we are more
It's so
left
wide.
today than we've ever been.
We entertain. We don't think we like. It's one thing to say, oh, I criticize this idea. It's just like, okay, but so what? Okay, you got on your microphone and said this is bad. Good for you. Right on. You know, way to take the moral high ground there. And yet it still just continues to gain traction and traction and traction and traction and further and further and further because like it just seems like hold on, let me ask you this.
Go ahead.
Should there be rules? And I'm going to ask very vague and general questions and then I'm going to focus in on them. Okay? Should we have rules and restrictions on free speech?
As little as possible. I can imagine a
That's very
couple
vague.
that might be like useful. Like, for example, I don't think we should let people just speak about military secrets, right? Like if you have something that's classified information, as a military document or something, I don't
Okay?
think that we should allow people to kind of just spread that around and call that free speech. I think that there are reasonable restrictions that could be made on free speech, but I would like them to be as little as possible.
Okay, so let's buckle down on that. So your primary example is military secrets.
Yes.
Okay. Can you think of any other ones that are like pretty? Yeah, we really
Well,
shouldn't
my
allow
medical
this
history.
to
I
run
don't think
wild.
that I should be able to learn someone's medical history and then just spout it off everywhere, right? I think there
Okay.
should probably be issues with that. Yeah.
Should we allow uh um pedophiles to hold rallies about promoting sex with children, even if it's illegal, even if it's whatever? Should we allow a rally to happen in our city parks if they get the permits, if they do everything right, to promote child pornography and sex with children?
Yes,
Okay, and
that's free speech.
that's it in a nutshell, right there. Okay, these ideas are horrific. These should not be entertained in a that we should not entertain for a second the idea that it's okay to promote.
I didn't say it's okay. I said it wasn't illegal.
Well,
We should
okay, but
not
here's
make
the
it
thing.
illegal.
Oh,
Do you know
but it
why?
also
Hold on. Do
but
you
it also should
understand
never
why?
happen. But it should also never happen. Is that the same thing?
Yeah,
Is
I
that
think that if in an ideal world, it should never happen. We should never
then
have that.
de facto it's illegal?
Hold on. No. The reason why we don't make these things illegal, right, is because any law you craft, any kind of exception that you can make to say only things that are dangerous to the social fabric are going to be used by bad actors to restrict speech that we would find fine. Speech only needs protection if we think it's abhorrent. Speech that everyone's fine with doesn't need protecting.
Right. So I asked you about something abhorrent.
Yes, and it's abhorrent. And the reason I protect that speech is it protects my speech. It protects your speech. It protects our ability to call Trump a fascist fuck. Because when we lessen the shield to get at the people we don't like, here's the thing. I love my freedom more than I hate their actions. Whatever actions you can imagine. I love my freedom to speak and to say what I believe to be true more than I hate what those pedophiles over there are saying.
Okay. So again,
That's just true.
Really, at the end of the day, what I'm getting at is like, so in that example, let's say it starts to gain traction, and let's say it starts to gain traction. Okay. Let's say that, like I'll use Andrew Tate because I used him before.
Sure.
That there is all of a sudden a rise of young people that are now being like, hey, this guy's spitting facts over here. I never thought that having sex with 9-year-olds was actually pretty based. And culturally, it gets traction.
Okay.
And now we have a spike in sexual assaults on 9-year-olds.
Okay.
And we just say, well, we have the checks and balances in place, so now we prosecute them, blah, blah, blah. It's like, how about we just don't allow promotion of such obviously abhorrent, illiberal ideas?
Because who gets to decide what is abhorrent and liberal ideas? And as soon as you give that power to the government, they are going to use it to suppress speech that you don't think should be suppressed. And I am telling you once again that I'm willing to take the risk that bad ideas get spread because I don't want the certainty of good ideas being suppressed. Like, there's a quote from a gentleman, okay, who ran the ACLU back in the 70s. Are you familiar with the Skokie case or the Skokie trial?
I am not.
Okay, so back in the 70s, a group of Nazis, not like actual Nazis, they wanted to protest in a Jewish community. They wanted to have a parade, a rally, to go around in their Nazi uniforms, hailing Hitler and all that in the full regalia, and they wanted to march through this Jewish community, okay? So they sought a permit, and they were denied the permit to do so. The community's like, no, fuck you. We're not going to allow this obviously thing in our community. That's a threat to us. We don't like this. So the ACLU took the case, and they won. They won the right for the Nazis to protest in a Jewish community. And the ACLU at the time was run, ironically enough, by a Holocaust survivor, okay? A guy who actually went through the 1930s Germany, right, and survived it. And people asked him, like, why did you...
Did the internet exist back then?
Hold on.
Did the internet exist back then?
No, but let me finish
okay, so now there's a new element in the equation.
Okay, hold on. You're trying to introduce...
This is not a clean example, because like, yes, if it made national news, if it made national headlines, the problem
It
is there's not a
did.
Reddit group. Is there's not a Reddit
It's
group that people
famous.
can go to. There's not a Reddit group that people can go to and fan the flames
I
at the time.
understand, but I don't think that changes the fundamental principle at play.
It
Okay?
does.
I don't
It
think
does
that
when
to
you
understand
introduce new variables.
Skokie, the guy again, the head of the ACLU at the time who said this quote, which I'm trying to find because it's a very good quote. But I'm going to paraphrase it, and forgive me if I butcher it a little bit. He's like, I understand that there is a danger of allowing Nazis to speak. Okay, there is a danger, but I know the certainty of the danger of not allowing them to speak, of having the
Okay,
government and giving the government the ability to restrict the speech of things that even we find abhorrent, and rightfully
okay.
so.
This,
Because
this
that,
is
more than any other thing, will lead to repression and to violence and to the restriction of freedoms much, much more, and much, much more certainly than allowing it to go freestyle, free flow, even with Reddit,
okay. This
even
is
with
analogy.
these
This is
things.
Wick. This is like when conservatives say I should be able to own a nuke because the military does, because they'll invoke back when the Constitution was found, and the best weapon you could find was a musket, and everyone had them. So they'll invoke this is very just well. I mean, hey, we can't take away the freedoms of people that like it's a well regulated militia. It needs to be available to overthrow tyranny. They have jets. They have whatever. We need access to jets. We need it's just it's we have obvious restrictions on firearms for obvious reasons.
Okay, when you put a law in place saying that you can't promote I don't know, MAGA ideology, right? Or Andrew Tateism, do you think that will stop that from spreading?
Well, not necessarily, but
Okay, it won't.
but
We have
okay.
evidence it won't, and we also have evidence that as soon as you
And,
stop that from them from being able to speak, they're going to be heard another way. If they can't use their words, they're going to use other means to be heard. And what do you think those
okay,
means
I
are?
didn't disagree with you. Hold on, I didn't disagree with you. I said probably not. Okay, but but the key thing here is the variables are different. The environment is different than it was back in the 70s, let alone the 80s. Like where we are now, how
Culture is
fast.
different today. That's true. I
It's
agree.
not just different. It's vastly different. Like
I
the people in
agree.
the 1800s were like up until the Industrial Revolution, the life was basically the same everywhere for thousands of years, with very, very, very small advances. Okay, like from agriculture to the Industrial Revolution, everyone lived basically the same. Now there were warlords, there were whatever, there were some areas that were peaceful, the scale was different, right? If you if you lived in Congo, you didn't experience conquest like you did under Genghis Khan. Okay. Obviously, things are different, but warfare was basically the same. Information traveled basically the same. Technology was mildly different until like gunpowder and other massive leaps forward that changed everything. Okay. I'm positing we are in a position where everything is being changed. Literally everything has been changed, and we cannot continue to roll with. Well, what about these time tested examples? What about this case that happened? Like 60 years ago. It's like, well, okay, 60 years ago from to now. Are you shitting me? Like
Do you
there
think
needs
that
to
any
be.
of these changes might make it more dangerous for the government to have the power to censor speech? That all these tools that you mentioned now, that
Yes, of
people who
course.
want to
There's
speak,
always risk. There's
then
always risk in
you're
any decision you do.
basically,
Of course.
again, the argument is just turned against you, right? That the risks of the government gaining the tools, not just to silence you in the public, but to silence you at your home, right? So you can't, even in the privacy of your own bedroom or your own computer room or wherever, even whisper a word against the government, because they will be able to hear you. Because as you said, society is wildly different and technology is wildly different. And we
Right.
don't want to give into the hands of a government who has the ability to listen to us wherever and whenever, right? The ability
But
to
the current
suppress our
administration,
speech.
the current right wing populist nonsense already doesn't give a shit about that. They don't give a shit about the Bill of Rights. They don't give a shit about the Constitution.
I understand, but the reason that they are being stymied in their goal of deporting people for free speech, the speech they have, because if you remember, Arbrego Garcia, that guy, he's back in the States. We won that battle. If we look at what's her face, the one that wrote the Israeli op-ed, we won that battle. What you're advocating for would make us lose those battles.
I don't know, man. I guess I'm looking at it like I'm watching a 15-year-old get the shit beat out of him, and the response I'm hearing is, well, we don't know what's going on. It's like it's like not only that, do we want to encourage vigilante justice to be able to stop? It's like, no, okay, we need to stop this person from getting the shit beat out
Oh
of him.
shit!
Okay, they were
Now you fucked
bugging
up.
me. They were bugging
Now
me.
you fucked up.
Okay.
Do I have to turn my camera on, or can I just be like this cameraless, disembodied
Someone's
soul?
got to turn their camera on. I'm feeling very lonely.
God
Okay.
damn. Okay,
I'm not
let's-
dressed for the occasion. Sorry.
Someone does. Okay, I don't care who.
Wait, so is your Andrew thing tonight? Did I get
no,
that
it's
wrong?
Thursday.
It's Thursday. Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea what this is going to put up. So,
It's a black screen. Which is,
yeah, thank God. I think about
Oh,
turning
let's
this light
go.
on. Whoa, look at that.
oh, there we go. Okay,
There we
well,
go.
you guys have been listening to this. You've been bugging me to get on. What are your thoughts? I think, first of all, caller, this is a good conversation. I like it. I think you're wrong, but I like the conversation. So,
Damn, you just going to take that from him? It's called you stupid.
No, as a matter of fact, Wick, you are naive and you don't understand. You have bit into. Listen, Wick, I love you. I've been watching you for a long time. Okay,
Thank you.
Like, there's
Oh,
a
God,
reason.
parasocial shit.
There's a reason. There's a reason I stick around. Is while I disagree with some of your takes, I'm 90% on board with you. Okay, but this 10% is exactly my problem. At some point, liberals and the left have made it, and Wick, you can take this however you want. All right. I'm not directly calling you this, but there is a culture of it being acceptable to be a fucking pussy on the left.
Damn.
And I've had it. I work construction. I've worked construction 22 years. I am a center left liberal that has worked blue collar. And so I've taken all the shit and I've curb stomped everyone that throws it my way on the conservative end, right?
You're
Not an
tired.
issue.
You need some pussy repellent.
But I'm telling you, yes,
You
like
guys
we
are
have just
pussy repellent?
entertained
Okay.
we have entertained being a pussy as acceptable on the left.
Damn.
What about
And
my
I-
stance makes me a
Damn.
pussy?
Well, that sounds pretty liberal to me. Sounds like liberalism's working. You're allowed to be a pussy in the liberal world.
Well, but okay. But here's the thing: I'm not saying we shouldn't be allowed. We're saying it's encouraged to be a pussy.
Damn.
Hold on. How is my defense of free speech pussy?
Well, I did. Hold on. Okay, we've moved on here. All right. This is like this is. Well, okay.
Because hold on, I just want to make this clear.
It is.
I am not advocating, and I have never advocated.
Just hey. I'll answer it. All right. Because what I just said before these two callers came in. All right. It's like I'm watching a 15-year-old get the shit beat out of him by a 40-year-old man, and we won't intervene.
Sometimes you don't. Sometimes that kid needs that beating, though.
Well, agreed, but this one didn't. Okay.
Oh.
I just
If
just to make
if
sure
the
he
kid
doesn't
deserved
get
it, if the
like
kid deserved it, I'd toss a knife in there. All right, but I'm not.
Damn,
Like,
damn.
just
Easy.
so he doesn't
You
get
have-
Whoa,
you
whoa,
have all the
Okay, so
shit.
before, hold on.
Hey,
Hold on.
hey,
Order in the
Doc, you
court.
got
Order
it
in the
right,
court.
man. Nothing will make you understand how you fucked up by missing a finger. Okay.
Hold
I
on.
want to support him, though.
Hold on. Before we let everyone go, right? And I know a lot of people have big issues. I just want to make this clear that I am not and never have advocating that we just roll over and take it, that we do nothing, that we watch from the sidelines, right?
It
That has
sounds like
never
it.
been my advocacy. That's never been what I'm asking you to do.
It
What I'm
sounds like it.
because I don't think you're listening is the problem. I think your brain turns off after I say a few words, and you think of what you want to say to me instead of listening to what I'm actually advocating for. That's my frustration, not just with you, to be clear, but with a lot of these people here. Like Gavin
My
Newsom
frustration
is great.
is that I
think
am
when he's-
listening to you. I'm saying your prescription is
You won't even let
completely
me
off
finish.
and wrong.
You don't. I haven't gotten to my prescription yet. I haven't gotten to what
I've been hearing it for
saying.
I've been hearing this
Okay,
whole conversation.
Hold on. Gavin Newsom, I have no problem with what he's doing. Meme away. Fight him on there on the gerrymandering thing. Great. But what you are advocating for is above and beyond what he's doing. You're advocating
Because
for
it's
taking away
warranted. It's
people's
time.
right to vote.
Listen, it's no different than my firearm example is the strongest one I can give. We have obvious restrictions on firearms.
My words
And
can't kill you.
Wick, I got to
They-
agree with him.
It's not.
As-
It's not really that strong
physically-
of a description.
As a strong moral conservative when he says, I want to make sure that the degenerates aren't able to shout their degeneracy with pride in the streets. I'm listening. Tell me more. Well, how should we enshrine that in law?
I mean, again, like if you're looking for exact specifics, shit, I don't know. These are just my feelings. I'd have to sit down and write them out and actually balance it out on what could work within the vast majority of the confines of the law. But there needs to be like what we're missing is taste. I guess that's the easiest way to sum it up.
Sure.
We have become a
different
tasteless.
taste, though, right? We have
Well, yes,
different
but
taste buds and we taste
there's
things
a large
differently.
pool. There's a large pool of acceptable taste, right?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. That's right. No degeneracy. Let's keep going.
All right.
You want to change the First Amendment, right?
Guys know who Rabbit is. It's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Well, I believe we're due. Yes, and the reason is I'm not saying this with pride or that I'm happy about it. I'm actually furious that I've come to this conclusion that we need to alter it.
Yes,
but the reason
we've been here for 40 years. Come on, join us.
Sorry,
join us on the conservative side. I'm with you.
No, because
let's end degeneracy in the streets.
Because all of you on that side can't spot an obvious con man when you see one.
That's I don't think that's exactly true.
I mean,
guess question caller person.
That's true. You don't think that you don't think when you want.
I'll take the tally stance and say we saw the con man in Trump and said we don't give a fuck because the other side's fucking up so bad.
You know, sure.
Then you don't have any.
People have been trying to convince us that oranges are apples for like 20 years.
I mean, you can say I have no principle, but I feel that I'm strong in my belief that if the other side's fucking up so badly, I'm not going to give them another chance to.
There is zero evidence the other side is fucked up nearly as bad. There is zero evidence.
Well, I'm going to make a little money now, just real quick. So $10 from Alexander Wren to say, because Democrats keep escalating when the right returns fire more effectively. $2 from Metalworks to say, ban commies and Nazis from holding government power, yes or no? $10 from Alexander Wren to say those same openings that liberals opened in censoring people, the same ones that they used to implement DEI, those are the ones that MAGA is using to undo and demolish the left's agenda. And then finally,
that sounds like a YouTube comment.
$10 from Alexander Wren. Look, they're paying me money, and I'm a capitalist, baby. So
YouTube's way better than
Twitch.
Let's be honest.
So $10 from Alexander Wren, finally, to say the person who defines what is degenerate gets to wield the laws against them. True.
Look, don't look too closely at that. You want to end degeneracy in the streets. I want to end degeneracy in the streets. Oh my God. Let's just word it that way in law. And then we can let the president decide through executive order what the list of degenerate things include.
Why is the Canadian speaking about these things? I don't understand. It's so funny to me every time Rabbit talks about
his people have been oppressed. He's got a position.
I'm not American too.
Schwango.
I know that, Rabbit.
Canada's pretty fucked right now, man. Let's just be real here. Y'all are wacky up there, all right?
He said y'all are wacky. Schwango, like, what's the role of government? What do you think the role of government should be?
Oh, okay, you mean according to my lens, to my world that I see it through?
Do you want?
Or do you mean actually? Do you want me to read off the Bill of Rights and the Constitution?
What about your perfect world?
What's happening? What do you think the role?
No, that was a good question to ask.
What do you think the role of government should be?
Did I stutter? Did you not understand what I'm asking? Do you mean according to what
I believe government should do, or what the Constitution and Bill of Rights do?
What you believe. What you believe. To what you
having
believe.
A stroke? Goddamn. What do you think the role of government should be?
He's asking you to clarify. Just clarify.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning. I am a center-left liberal. All right.
I wish I cared, but okay.
All right.
Keep the comments to minimum, Joe.
I just want to know what you think the role of government should be. That's it.
At the end of the day, yeah, like just easy there. All right. You know, I think you got a French fry stuck in your beard. Take it easy. All right.
Okay. Let's come on.
We got okay. At the end of the day, the role of government using the Bill of Rights as the primary source of its air quotes morality, because I'm also an atheist and I don't want to get into this. Where does morality come from? For me, it's simple. Morality comes with empathy through a lens of liberalism.
Okay. We got this. Yeah. We're not
using
here, right? So
empathy through a lens of liberalism and defending the Bill of Rights while using the Constitution as the primary vehicle.
But
how do you
That's
know?
a very low resolution, broad.
Gotcha.
View.
Gotcha. How do you know that the Bill of Rights is good?
It lines up very well with what we have determined well-being psychologically to encompass.
Who is we here?
Well, what's that?
People that have the ability to understand psychological impacts on the human mind.
What?
We is
What do you mean? What? What's
Oh
so
my
complicated
goodness.
about this question? What's so complicated about that?
It didn't matter what you would say. Joe's going to laugh about it and think that he got a W here. It's embarrassing. He does this every time. It turns into the Joe show where he only asks questions, where he tries to direct the audience to think that, oh my God, look, these liberals think they know what they're talking about, and it takes a few questions for me to get them to tie them up in knots. When instead, Joe never advocates for what he wants, and instead he comes up on here all the time and has a fake position. He doesn't hold any real principles.
Okay, so hold on a minute.
Let's continue the conversation, but you don't have to engage with him.
You're not in the conversation, though, in pursuit of knowledge. All you've done is meta speak. You haven't actually contributed anything. You're just like a wrestling commentator.
I will.
I'm waiting.
Look, this may have been a mistake. I thought I was going to let people on to have an interesting conversation about freedom of speech and its limits.
God damn.
But hold on a minute. Let's get acquainted here. I have no idea who this 9 minutes person is. Well, who are you, first off, and second, where do you line up politically here? I have no idea.
I'm just trying to understand. So, like you said, using the Bill of Rights as a primary source of morality.
What I said, answer my question, please. Who are you? Where do you line up politically?
I'm at best a left Hegelian, some sprinkles of communitarianism, and some sprinkles of socialism. At best, it's much easier to describe me as an illiberal. It's much easier to think I'm an illiberal person because I have a lot of different beliefs that are in not necessarily contradiction with each other, but they're just different and vary.
So it's a smattering of ideologies that sound nice, but you have no practical applications on how to apply them without totally disrupting and turning over a functioning society.
You literally want to edit the First Amendment because liberalism. And you don't think you're eroding?
No, he's about defining the First Amendment. That's a very different thing.
On firearms.
I'm trying to the thing that I'm kind of just trying to figure out.
First of all, the slippers, he's not FD signifier. Okay, they look totally different.
I do look different.
I don't know why you're calling him FD signifier, but go on, Joe, please.
All right. So you believe that the Bill of Rights should be the source of morality. It doesn't seem like you can really pin down.
No. Bill of Rights with empathy.
What does it mean? But what does that mean, Bill of Rights with empathy, though? That's
the bill. Okay, hold on.
I'm with you.
The Bill of so I mean like in the event of let's do an easy off example. Let's say that we want to make a historic building. Somewhere in your town, people put up historic buildings, right? But also a massive developer wants to come through and bulldoze it down so that they can put up a mall, right?
Okay.
Technically, the Bill of Rights would do nothing to prevent them from doing it, but also so in that vein, it's having empathy towards the community that they may actually decide, no, this stays as a historic building. It doesn't matter how much money you throw at it. It doesn't matter whatever. Okay. If it's decided to stay, then it's decided to stay. Bill of Rights with empathy.
Gotcha. So, can I give you like a general real world example? Maybe you can.
Mine wasn't, but okay.
No, I mean, was also, yeah, but okay. No, sure, but I guess okay. So, should children be allowed to emancipate themselves from their parents?
Under certain conditions, yes.
What do you think, Wick?
Same answer.
Should couples be allowed to divorce for any reason?
Yes.
Or no reason.
Any
or
reason.
No reason. Any reason or
no reason. Sure. I got drunk. I woke up. I don't know who this person is. Yeah.
So what is it about the family structure that makes it unique that parents are able to just leave whenever they want to for whatever reason or no reason, but for children they have to have some type of exception?
because obviously, like, let's go into basic neuroscience. Okay, children do not have all of the wisdom or capacity to make educated and grown up decisions for themselves. Not all of them. There's a vast majority that cannot.
And
But
if the scientific research said that children do have the capacity to make complex decisions up to and including substantively voting for candidates, really understanding the difference between right and wrong, different levels of demonstration of capacity
what
of
would
adults.
give them the understanding of right and wrong?
I'm saying that, like, if there was research, if the consensus changed over time.
You mean hypothetically, is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, we're in the hypotheticals now, right? Yeah.
No, I'm giving you real world examples.
This is not this is we there's so much data already pointed out that what are you talking about? A 12-year-old?
I can send you a Johns Hopkins article right now debunking everything you're saying.
Shh. What am I saying that's getting debunked?
That children could have the capacity to make grown-up decisions around morality and right and wrong and who to vote for and where to get a job, where to get money, where to do whatever. That is not the case. And
I'm asking down the road, if the scientific consensus became that, would you alter your position on that?
Why would you? Yes. Why are we interrogating about the fact that children or parents can abandon their children? What's the point of this line of questioning, Joe?
The thing is like, one of the things that concerns me about liberalism, for example, is that it doesn't really have. It doesn't care about the content. Like, so when we look at the family is a structure. It's a social, political structure, an institution in society. But we leave, like, liberalism, like, allows for choice and freedom, but not exactly the choice and freedom. And I think one of the reasons why it gets into particular
rules dictate what those freedoms will be. You don't have freedom without rules. Do you understand that?
Freedom without rules, sure. Like, for instance,
and children
in soccer,
don't get to choose who they get born to, right? Versus
but they could absolutely choose who their family is.
They can, but they
okay. I'm throwing a flag on the play because
this is silly. What are you talking about? They can. You think a 3-year-old
Alexander Wren, if you give me $100 right now, I will kick every single person here.
Okay.
No.
So
hold on a minute, Wick. You and I were engaged in something. You decided to make this an orgy here.
I regret.
Okay.
I repent. I repent of my decision.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the point that I'm trying to make here is that freedom has a form and a content. The free will is through that form and the content. The form in this case is the will. The form of the will is choice.
Okay.
And then the content are the options.
Alexander,
among,
like,
how the options.
Okay, $100 and we can do that.
All right. So the thing that I'm trying to figure out is, how does liberalism, and this is really more a question for Wick, how does liberalism navigate the particularities of the institutions that it pokes its head in? Does it?
Sure. To answer your question, the purpose of liberalism isn't to necessarily alter fundamentally a lot of these institutions it's poking its head in. What liberalism does as a structure is it makes sure that competing institutions, competing ideologies, competing differences are able to live together and tolerate each other without either one, subsuming the other entirely, or preventing it from ever growing again, right? Or out and out violence and killing each other, right? Those are the two basic
things.
It's
a pressure valve, right?
So you essentially reject the idea.
Foundational concept that,
go ahead, so do you reject the idea that individual choice is the most important ideal? Is that something you don't agree with?
Okay. I did get $100 to kick you, Joe, and anyone else that wants a meta conversation about the source of ideas, but I will answer your question before I do.
Sure.
So I think that can you repeat your question just real quick?
What I asked you is, what I asked was, do you believe that individual choice is the most important ideal?
No.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Since
also,
we can't elaborate,
when you asked me about my worldviews, the Bill of Rights with a lens of empathy, and the Constitution is the vessel, as long as it's funded by capitalism, because all other economic models are fucking cringe.
Okay.
You can have socialism and capitalism.
Back to the main structure at hand. Mr. What's your name? I'm sorry, sir. Your screen name.
Me?
Yeah, you.
I'm Schwengo.
Schwengo. Okay, sorry. Streamer mode doesn't let me see it, right? So Schwengo. Okay. Schwengo has posited, to get us back on track, right? Schwengo has posited that the structures have failed and that we have allowed MAGA to kind of rot. He used the metaphor of a tree board to kind of rot our things, and that we need extreme measures to fix it. Two of the things that he has mentioned, and he can correct me if I'm misrepresenting these, are one, preventing people from like Marjorie Taylor Greene, even if they're elected in their districts, from holding power. He hasn't given me a mechanism for that, but that's fine. And second, to amend or redefine or clarify the First Amendment so that certain types of dangerous speech are not allowed. Is that
It's not just dangerous speech. It's not just dangerous speech. It is illiberal.
Dangerous, illiberal speech. Okay.
I mean, to narrow down the whole idea, it's about the...
It is restrictions. It's not removal. Do you understand the difference?
Right.
What about the speech
it's
makes
about
it illiberal?
being intolerant
No different than firearms. No different than firearms. Okay. We allow a vast amount of firearms for people to own, but there are ones you cannot own. I don't give a shit if you have a class 3. I don't care. You cannot have certain levels of munition because of the potential carnage it can cause.
So what words can't I use? What words can't I own?
Trump is
you know
based.
him already.
You will be executed if you say anything positive
Wait.
about Trump.
Yeah, we can own a bunch of firearms.
I'm sure you're
we can own a bunch of firearms as a people of this nation, but that all
we can't own nuclear
from,
weapons. I mean, let's just get narrowed down.
Within reason, right? We get that, but that's all subject to determination of whoever wields power at the moment. So that's kind of what the point is trying to be made against your argument is like whoever is holding power can define what is and isn't allowed. It's not.
Yeah, and that's a risk we always take. That's a risk we always take. No matter what road we go down, that risk never goes away.
Okay, but my main contention with you is that you're trying to avoid a liberalism by eroding liberal protections foundational in these documents.
No, what I'm doing is that there's
he's preserving it.
Hold on a minute. Hold on. There's an engine that's running. And all of the bolts are loose, and it's about to fall apart. And I'm saying we need to tighten it up. We need to have restrictions on people that work on these things, that have the certifications to work on them, so that we all enjoy having safe engines.
What's one
so you
actionable...
need to be certified for speech now, is what you're saying, right? Like speech, the right to life, the right to speech, I think are two of the most foundational rights that everything else is built on top of. And if you tinker with those, you tinker with everything down.
Why should we have I think we should have like
we have a right to life already. We already
the problem is that you're talking about having the change happen in a legal framework instead of like a civil liability. When you look at something like InfoWars that got sued into non-existence, it wasn't because we changed the First Amendment and we threw him in jail. It's because he said bullshit, he got caught, and he had to pay hundreds of millions of dollars and got folded.
But it's only because he made hundreds of millions of dollars, right? Like the only reason why that, because anybody could, there's so many million, there's thousands of people that have said way worse things than Alex Jones. The only reason why Alex Jones got sued into oblivion is because he was so successful at it and he made tons of money on dick pills, right? Like,
correct. And awesome.
That's not why the lawsuit was successful. The lawsuit was successful because there was an actual demonstration of harm from his actions. The money didn't have to come whether or not the money came from that as a result. He would have gotten sued. He could have realistically been sued for that.
And honestly, getting a judgment isn't collecting, right?
You're using the technical legal reason, but the only reason anybody paid any attention to it is because he made hundreds of millions. There are plenty of people out there that saying dangerous things, that there is physical harm, but nobody pays attention to it because they didn't make hundreds of millions of dollars.
So the remedy is the same. The remedy is the same.
I think people paid attention to Alex Jones because of the ridiculous things he was saying, not because he was getting rid of them.
You take civil action to remedy harm.
Because he was saying
ladies and gentlemen,
and making hundreds of millions of dollars.
Gentlemen,
it's just
gentlemen, I think the fundamental misunderstanding we have here is that you all think that the things that Alex Jones says, the things that Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying, the things, all this misinformation, disinformation, whatever you would call it, is causing these things. And I would posit to you that no. If Alex Jones did not say a word, someone else would have. Why? Because there's a market for it. Because people want it. Misinformation comes because people... Hold on, let me finish my point, man. because people want that misinformation. They want people to justify their biases. They want people to justify what they already believe. So when you restrict people from being able to speak their mind, you are not solving the problem. What you are doing is you are making it much harder to track the problem. And this is, you're like an ostrich that buries your head in the sand, thinking if we don't see it, it goes away. If you decide to make sure that no one can ever say that Trump is based again, people will not magically stop thinking Trump is based. What they will do is they will go mask on, use other words to say the same thing, and make it much more harder to find out who the actual problems are. It's very important for me. The reason I think it's okay and even good to allow a pedophile to go into the park to get a permit to host a rally or whatever, a pro-pedophilia rally, is because you know what happens then? I know who the pedophiles are. I know who not to have babysit my children.
But you know what also happens after that is that people call the cops and say, we don't want this shit in our park. And the cops go up and say, hey, you guys need to leave because even though you got a permit, these people are asking you to leave. Like,
no, that's illegal. You can't have them do that.
This is causing disturbance. This is causing issue. It has happened. It will continue to happen.
Under Wick's framework, no, the cops should not be able to make them leave.
They should.
Yeah, that's great. They have a right to assembly.
To be fair, I'm pretty sure Wick's example there would...
They're not breaking any law by their own accord. But if a neighborhood of people get together and say, we don't want this here, this is offensive.
You're talking about mob justice. That's illegal as well, right?
Talking about mob justice. We're talking about people appealing to the authority we're talking about people appealing to the authority to get something they don't like out of an area. It's the same.
Wick
it's
is
the same
saying that
kind of
that's
process
not good. We don't want that, right? Wick is saying that that's not good because you just brought up the earlier case with the Nazi and the
Wick
ACLU.
is saying that they should be able to do it. I'm saying that one of the other results is so a lot of people can tell them to get out of here, show them the door.
Yeah, and we should tell them to fuck off because we have freedom of speech.
What you are trying to infer is that there's a preempt on this, and there isn't. They can still get the permit. They can still assemble. They can still have their rally, but it will happen up until a point. A group of people get together, decide to get in touch with authorities, whoever, police, local municipality representatives, whatever, say, we don't like this happening here. Please get rid of it.
Well, usually what happens is both sides have the tactic of they go in, they disturb whatever rally or assembly is being done. They turn violent, and then it gets broken up because now there's physical violence happening, and then the police say, "Okay, this is over." That's more common than the police just moving peaceful speech out.
Well, can we go to advocating Schweigo? Can we talk about Schwango? Sorry, Schwango. Apologies, Mr. Schwango.
Real quick. Hold on. Have any of you watched Regular Show?
Hell yeah.
No.
Okay, well, just I came up with this name. It's something Rigby and Mordecai would just say. All right, that's the easiest. It'll help you remember. It's Schwango. All right, yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. That didn't help. So anyway, what actual kind of things would that help me? Help me understand, or help us understand? Is there a certain policy that you would want implemented? Because I heard earlier you talking about how the internet is the biggest prime difference between Wick's earlier example with the ACLU in the 1970s versus now, how we have the internet. Is there something? It seems like the internet is really your main issue when talking about being intolerant to
it's the
illiberalism.
It's the ease at which these bad ideas get spread, and there's no check on them. There's no one to
What kind of check would you want?
I mean, okay, so if we're talking ideally, I would like us as a culture. You know what I mean? Like as a grassroots, bottom up approach. Sure. That's what I'd like.
White nationalist culture.
Yeah. Like, well, okay, if nationalism wasn't cringe, I'd give it more attention, okay? But really, at the end of the day, I'd like a bottom-up effort, meaning we need to establish boundaries of taste culturally, all right? Now, conservatives hear that, and they like that, but the problem I have with that is that the conservatives liking that approach is, that just means I can shoehorn in my Christian nationalism or whatever, because these are issues of taste. Right, but the problem is all of these inevitably reach illiberal conclusions. All of them. That's as Wick discovered in that debate, that pathetic debate that he had with those two idiots. That I couldn't. Like, I'm an atheist. I could argue their position better than they could. Okay.
Well, let me ask you a question then, and this is kind of piggybacking.
Well, let me finish up. Let me finish up with it real quick. Let me finish
well,
up.
this will illuminate what Imperceived Knowledge asked you. So, what you've brought up the pedophile rally. What law changes could you make to freedom of speech that would allow you to keep the pedophiles out of the park, but wouldn't also let Trump break up pride parades?
I mean, this is where the rubber meets the road, and it's a very touchy. To Wick's point, which I've never denied, it's very difficult. It's very complicated. It has to be worded in such a way.
I could give an example to you right now because I came on here to fully support what you're saying, Schwego, and I think we should get rid of internet anonymity. I know, Wick, you hate that idea, I bet, but I think that every person should be you should have your name tied to an account. We should have
Trump should
state verification.
What you're advocating for is Trump.
I'm fine with that.
Everyone who is ever critical.
You know what? I understand what you're saying, Wick. That's to scaremonger me because yes, I hate Trump. I do think he's a piece of shit dictator, authoritarian bullshit. But at the same time, I want him to know my name. I want him to know. I want us to be able to fight against these people and target, like to your point, Wick, we see these people in public. We should be able to point them out and say, yeah, he's the fascist. Yeah, that's the pedophile. Yeah, that's the guy that wants white nationalism based on Christian ethics. Yeah, that's the guy that wants to gay all the transes. I don't know. I think,
in your defense, and in his defense too, they are still protected under the Bill of Rights. So that means they can be identified, exactly. But that doesn't mean they can be tarred and feathered also.
Yeah, the problem is the internet. I think that's what the main issue is, that what you pointed out earlier. Number one is the problem. People streamers are the problem, okay? And we as an audience, we give these people power. I know it's very ironic with being on a panel show and talking to Wick about it, but that's what I love about Wick, is that he enables the audience to fight against him as well. So it's very good. I love that.
I like beating up on people who are weaker than me. $10 from Alexander Wynn. $10 from Alexander Wynn to say, how about we start with blocking foreign countries from using social media to target Americans with lies and disinformation? Maybe start with censoring foreign countries before our own citizens. $5 from Cameraman 502 to say, as a conservative, why should I wait for you to drop liberalism? If I'm going to be subject to an authoritarian state, I might as well enjoy a right-wing one. And then finally, $5 from Federal Methodist to say, bring back the black representing Asian man, Joe Lewis. You're going to need more than $5. If $100 paid to kick him off, I need at least that much to bring him back on.
So
go ahead.
Logically, I can see that your internet anonymity thing leads to some of the result you want, but then it could also lead to just the absolute hardening of those communities, those groups, to eventually they end up getting more of their way because they unify around.
I hate this. Like, well, what about slippery slope bullshit? That risk always exists. It doesn't matter who's in power. That risk always will exist.
But no,
it's the marginalized communities that benefit the most.
The risk obviously is more in one instance than the other.
It's a bad reason not to.
Hold on, but can you at least acknowledge to me that the risk in one instance is far greater than the risk in the other? While I would agree with you that the risk is always there, that does not mean that we need to increase exponentially, I would argue, the risk of this happening. We can look at risk mitigation is different than risk elimination. We can't eliminate all risk, but we can mitigate it.
I honestly believe my proposed solution. I mean, I know I haven't expounded very clearly on it, but the idea,
Purple Remedy, thank you for the raid. Okay, sorry.
The avenue that I'm going down is the risk mitigation.
Well, Schwengo, so I want to circle back a bit because you said something that was very honest, very sincere, and I appreciated it when you were like, that's tough. I'm not sure. It's delicate. Things can go bad if we do it wrong. If you were my surgeon and we were discussing my upcoming brain surgery and you came to me and said, you know what? I have this idea how to change things that'll make your life better, but it's risky. It's controversial. It hasn't been done before. We're not quite sure what the side effects could be. And historically, it hasn't worked out too well when we've done similar operations. I would be very reluctant be the first person to go through this.
Understandable.
Right?
However, guess what? You are still going to have your brain eaten out by whatever's eating your brain out.
I mean, on top of that, we're talking about the internet. This is not something that's, we've had the revolutions of in media spaces of TV and newspapers and radio. There were tons of authoritarian dictators that were able to use those things, like Hitler, like Stalin, like the Protestant revolutions, right? These kind of knowledge is all about spreading revolutionary spirit whenever they first come out. And the internet this is no different. And what happened with each of those things? We were able to find ways to censor, not to completely eliminate freedom of speech, but we do need some discrimination. Just like we discriminate kids from, fucking drinking alcohol, smoking cigarettes. I think we need to have some sort of internet protection on freedom of speech because, yes, it's not. I'm not talking about like full on doxing, but I think. I put a fucking, I know your fucking name. You're tied to an ID that you go online. I think it's a good thing. I'm sorry. I know, Wick. Relax. I know. But no, I think we should be held accountable.
I don't tell people my real name for a very important reason. Because if my real name was out there on the internet, people would already have swatted me, doxed me, etc. Not for anything could you imagine if President Sunday had my real name? Could you imagine if Hassan had my real name? Could you imagine if all these people who were my enemies had my real name? And we've seen, we watch what's happening with Ethan Klein, right? We're watching what they're doing to his family. Why would I ever want people to have access to my anonymous information?
Okay, the best way I could give an example of this is when you're walking down the street and you see a schizophrenic homeless person, do you go up to them and try to have a conversation with them? That's how I view President Sunday. You stay the fuck away from these crazy people. Yeah, they're fucking psycho.
Can you imagine he had your name and address, though?
They don't. They didn't come up to Wick. I'm sorry, you had a show with him for a small time. And I thought that was kind of cool. You did the exact opposite. I'm sorry. You stay away from the schizophrenics. You do.
Okay,
that's not an option. Not on the internet.
It is an option on the internet. Yes, you can block.
You
can stay away from these people,
but that won't. No. But if they have your number and they're these obsessive psychos, like there's not really much you can do if they have your name, right?
Well, that's the
point of the protection that anonymity affords.
Yeah. Well, and there's a difference between taking away your ears.
And there's another thing. There's another thing you were talking about, like the restrictions and regulations put on radio and television, and how we could do similar things.
Hold on a minute.
I'm not done. We could do similar things to the internet. Those things are not done by the government. The government can't. The government can't restrict speech on those platforms because, again, that would be against the First.
What are you talking about? Yes, they can. The FCC exclusively stops people. I can't open up a television radio station.
You can't censor me.
What are you trying to say?
Hold on. I get what he's trying to say. Let me summarize what I'm hearing. Okay. Have any of you seen Akira, the anime? I'm sure most of you have.
I haven't seen Akira. I've seen that one.
Okay. So at the end, when he's morphing, okay, it's this mutated, horrific monstrosity. And then if we want to kill it, you shoot off its hand, and you're like, hold on a minute, you can't shoot off their hand. That's bad. Shooting off hands, it's like, but all the meanwhile, this thing is just growing and mutating and getting worse, and we're just nitpicking over each individual isolated incident of, well, what happens if this one thing happens? What about this, that, and the other? It's like all the meanwhile, this landscape online is just morphing into this monster that's going to consume everything.
What if it's not morphing into a monster? What if it's just evolving beyond your limited understanding?
Wow, so profound, Evan.
How are you for your input? Not the problem?
It's not.
It is a good point,
morphing into a monster right now. There's a monster that is threatening.
Let me clarify something. I'm not talking about giving doxes to everybody. I'm talking about that you have to have accountability. The government. Yes, the government is going to know, just like a driver's license, if you fucking crash into somebody, you're going to have insurance. You're going to have a driver's license. If you don't, you're going to be held responsible for the actions that you have taken. I think that the online, if someone says some wild shit,
need a license to say what I want to say.
I mean, but a crash causes harm. A crash
on the
causes
internet,
damage
you should
to property, a damage to person. It causes damages. People espousing their beliefs doesn't necessarily equate to any kind of actual damage.
Well, I don't think we need any change, because I agree we need greater accountability on the internet. I think if
that's what I want.
If you break a law, that's
too.
why I break bread with you. I think if you break a law, there should be a route to legal accountability, but you don't need.
Well, there is.
You don't. I know, that's what I'm saying. You don't need to change any current laws right now. You can go in. You can, file a suit with the police or a complaint with the police. You can get this person's information from their ISP, and you can pursue legal avenues that way. I don't think you have to breach the shield of anonymity, which disproportionately benefits marginalized communities that have very few other means to communicate.
Don't wrap POCs in as a blanket, as a shield.
This is what
as the closest to a POC on the panel, $5 from Better Methodist to say, wait, I thought Wiki T Doodles Jr. was your real name. Sorry to burst your bubble, pal. $5 from Zephyr Hash.
I'm half Mexican, so I can be a POC.
$5 from Zephyr Hash to say you have the names and faces of every prominent conservative spreading misinformation. How is that helping you curb their ideas? Good question, right? Like the Andrew Wilson.
What do you mean?
Anonymous.
We name and shame them. What do you mean? We go on Twitter all the time, make fun of these people. Have
you
seen what Gavin Newsom's doing? That's great.
I told you in the beginning. We don't entertain. We don't give it credence. Like, well, everyone has a right to say. It's like, no, that is fucking stupid.
They do.
No. But we have a real world example.
No, they do have that. Hold on.
We have a real world example where this blew up in your face when that people donated all that money to that woman after she called the person the N-word in the park. People collapsed around them. There was accountability.
Do you want her? Do you think that she's living like a good life as the N-word lady?
But what about Candace Owens?
Like, how'd you make your money? I said the N-word once online, and I made thousands of money on GoFundMe.
Be realistic. She doesn't go around and say that to people when people ask how she made her money. More than likely, she's still probably got an out, like a cop out for that.
You
have the possibility that people collapse on them.
Again, I want to bring it back to the foundation of my argument here, is that yes, I will just cede to you that allowing people to have an opinion and express that opinion on social media has its dangers. But my argument is that giving the government the power to censor people is more dangerous. It is more.
I want to engage this. And I only want Wick to answer this. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Censorship.
Do you support the restrictions on firearms that we have?
Some of them yes, some of them no.
Okay, but why can't that be expounded to the First Amendment if it's in the Second Amendment? They're both foundational.
Guns are dangerous in a way that words are not.
What is the first intended purpose of a firearm?
I can't fire a word at you and kill you. I can't drop a word on a house and that house will blow up. I can't do that.
I saw Harry Potter. There's a couple of words that can kill people.
I don't know. Back in the 60s and 50s, you could drop
words
a word on a house.
Look, magic doesn't exist. Magic spells don't exist. I promise you. I can't kill you with a word. I can kill you with a bullet.
Let's drop the 10-year-old analysis.
Are you denying the existence of
not fifth grade analysis, though. It is very true. The first intended purpose of a firearm is to kill something.
And the first primary
to say something. Let's use all the parts of our brains here. Okay, all the components of our brains, not just the ones that, not just the amygdala. All of our brains.
I got my prefrontal cortex all warmed up.
I am massaging
I see the
left
vein
and right hemisphere.
Right, let's get to this. All right. The reason is I'm using it in the same vein of the firearm is because I can go to the gun range and I can fire 5,000 rounds downrange and I won't hurt a single thing. Okay? However, if I am allowed to spout off 5,000 podcasts of dog shit bad ideas, you can easily say, well, no one was hurt, no one was whatever. However, I planted seeds in people's minds that are left unchecked are going to gain traction.
Well, then don't leave them unchecked.
So
And you know how you don't leave them unchecked?
That's my point.
How soon do you want President Trump to determine what's a dog shit idea?
I'm sorry, Schwango. Look,
don't leave them
you're
unchecked
fighting against the big problem of
fighting
like Joe
words with
Rogan,
words.
which is basically, how do you fight bad speech with good speech? The problem is you have to get through these people that they don't quite understand that yes, words do require actions to be a problem. Wick, do you agree with that? That it's not about the words, he's talking about the actions that lead
some ideas are
from those words.
I do not disagree that some ideas are dangerous, but my argument is that the government having the power to choose which ideas are dangerous and which are not is a bigger problem than allowing 5,000 podcasters to spot off ridiculous things. I would also argue that some dangerous ideas it's good that they are dangerous because there are things that are out there that need to be destroyed. And speech can do that. There are things that we want to dismantle. We want to dismantle
why can there not be
MAGA's
boundaries?
power structure, and it's very important that we have the ability to do so with words.
Okay, but why are you so against having firm boundaries?
We do have a firm boundary.
No, we don't. We have a very
vague. Go back to your 2A analogy. We have already determined that limiting speech is a firearm that the government should not be allowed to own, and we have restricted the government from being able to own limitations on speech because of the danger that it presents.
And ironically, we've ended up in a time that is just horrible because of the exact modality you're
is worse than the disease.
But it's not. No, it's not.
It is. It
has been every single time they have tried to do, because this isn't a new solution. It's a very old solution.
Yes,
it's
we should have these solutions to the internet.
It's the same solution that Nazi Germany used. It's the same solution that USSR used. It's the same solution that
did any of them operate under a liberal framework?
These are all solutions that are very, very old.
A liberal framework. Did any
the
of
liberal
those
framework is the solution to all of these
liberal
governments?
Okay, so let me get this straight. All I'm hearing is it's either a complete free-for-all or basically a free-for-all with some very, very minor limitations, and we end up in a tailspin like everyone here agrees. Culturally,
hold on. Okay. We are not in an insolvable tailspin. We're not.
Oh my hell! You cannot be this naive.
You're not.
We're not.
You're not.
We're okay.
Oh my God! You cannot be this naive that you do not see
until
coming down the pipeline
and imprison you for suggesting that
there's just National Guards on DC streets, and now we're getting
coming down the pipeline.
It's just words, right, Schwago? Yeah. No,
what I see coming down the pipeline.
The president is putting troops on the streets. That's why we should give him more power.
What is coming down the pipeline is challenges to the Republican government that is causing all these problems.
What's coming down the pipeline is
the possibility that Democrats are going to sweep
MAGA. I'm just telling you. I'm being honest with you guys.
Online, Wick is giving
in pursuit.
Yes.
In pursuit.
I'm answering your question already.
No, you're not. You're not even listening to your question. In pursuit. Trump and MAGA would love to have the powers you want to give them. They would use it, and you wouldn't like how it ended up. So, again, we take these weapons off the table.
But Rick, they just replaced the knives with blunderbusses.
They are not. They're not.
How does that metaphor?
They're being stopped by the court.
Because he's saying we take the weapons off the table. They just provide new ones, like providing an executive order, like In Pursuit said we're just cleaning up the homeless. That's why I'm deploying the National Guard. It's a health crisis. Yet every official in DC says this is bullshit. That's not federal government.
So let's run with that. Is the answer to executive overreach to grant them more powers and dilute fundamental rights, or to restrict
first off, I'm not the one saying that this goes to an executive branch. I would actually enjoy going back to how government's supposed to function, meaning Congress is the primary force.
Okay, but when government is not acting properly, is the response usually to give them more power or to take it away?
How are we giving them more power with having accountability online?
Going to erode
again, the questions are, who gets to decide what is the bad speech, the dangerous speech, the speech we don't want, the speech
my God, I'd like, Wick, you sound so much like Joe Rogan or Constantine Kissing right now. Oh my God.
The government. And who's in charge of the government? Trump.
Okay. I understand, Wick. You're very scared of Trump using
you
this
guys
kind
are just
of power
you're
to limit
what you're
free speech.
doing
I
is you're like
understand that.
you're seeing this thing that's a dangerous thing, and you're like, we got to fight this thing, so we're gonna ram our face straight into their fist over and over again, and we'll take it down surely. And I'm saying, don't do that.
Doing.
That's
that
retarded.
is what you're doing, Wick. Because
that's what you're doing.
Here's
Wick.
the problem.
That is not.
That's
my way has been demonstrated
yes,
to
you
work.
are. Because
your way
what
has
was
been
your
demonstrated
answer?
to
What was
fail.
your answer to Republicans?
When has censorship worked? Answer me that. When has censorship worked?
What was your answer?
When has censorship worked?
To Mitch McConnell blocking Obama's Supreme Court pick? What was your answer to that?
Obama didn't have a Supreme Court pick.
Exactly. Why not?
What would you have done?
What was your answer to that?
Hold on. What was your answer
Should
to
Democrats have blocked the entire Trump administration from having any Supreme Court picks? Yes or no? Should the Democrats have done that during Trump's first term?
Yes,
they have the power.
If they had the ability to, sure. But they didn't have the ability to.
So you would have been supportive of doing tit for tat, correct?
Yes, legally.
Okay. That's what we're advocating for.
No, you're
that's
not.
What
No, it's not.
Yes,
no, it's
I am.
not.
You're
No, it's
not.
not.
You're voting the First Amendment.
You're advocating.
Are you
for
saying? Okay, hold on. Are we? Do we
Constitution.
agree or disagree that Trump is already eroding the First Amendment?
He's being stopped from doing that by the courts.
Yeah.
When was the last time the First Amendment was changed?
It's about interpretations, isn't it?
Well, when was the last time?
What do you mean? What are you talking about? Like an
changed?
amendment? Like a? What do you mean? I don't. You're Canadian. Why?
I mean, that's a fairly straightforward question, isn't it? When was the last time the First Amendment was changed?
I don't know when the First Amendment was last. I don't think it's been changed.
I know that I speak English more properly than Americans, but I'm pretty sure that you can still understand the words coming out of my mouth.
I can't when you talk so slow, like Mr. Girl. I swear to God, it's very difficult.
You're supposed to actually talk this speed.
I don't think
we need to get into our broader
that way
here and really dig into the minutia of what we're trying
so
to do.
when
what was your question? What's your point, Rabbit? What's your point?
When Congress put an act out that allowed emergency powers for the president to deal with situations, do you think they envisioned him being able to use it to apply tariffs to all your closest, most trusted trading partners?
In times of war, yes.
That's
the whole point.
War with Canada.
Exactly. That's the problem. Are we at war with Venezuela? Well, why do we have the illegal Aliens Act going on right now?
How do you understand the fundamental problem with the tariff system right now?
If those powers weren't in place, could they be abused? No, because they wouldn't exist.
My point is using tit for tat. We should be doing exactly the same things that they're doing today. Back at them. We should be censoring their freedom of speech. We should be gerrymandering the fuck out of them. As long as they understand that what they're doing is not okay legally, then they should start understanding that there should be a de-escalation.
Essentially, you're mega.
I'm going to give you their answer. Well, who's the one to decide if what they're doing is okay or not?
Yes,
you make a funny voice, but this is a very serious question, and when you
it's about democracy, isn't it? It's about democracy.
Could you guarantee if you had these rules in place? Could you guarantee if you had these rules in place, you would have a Democrat government for the foreseeable future? In perpetuity to the end of time.
I don't care if it's a Democrat. I don't care if it's a Democrat.
People still on Democrat.
No, he's talking about democracy.
Whatever.
Liberalism.
Could you guarantee for the foreseeable future that somebody would be in power that you would agree with on what they're restricted in terms of speech? Could you honestly say that's good?
Are you ready? I'll answer that. If there is laws, amendments made that they can only operate, and I know this is vague, and we can get into the details, but if you can operate under a lens of liberalism with correct, fair, and measured restrictions, yes.
Those are incompatible.
Who determines this correct, fair, and
it's
measured?
always goes back to that.
I would love to see.
It's about having an educated government.
Do we agree? We need to.
I do need. Hold on. I do need to say. I do need to say. Look. I have in the title that this is a relaxed day. That was a fucking lie. Okay, I'm sorry. I deceived you, my dear audience.
How do you be relaxed while reflecting on liberalism?
And now Schwengo wants to arrest me, apparently, for lying.
Hold on a minute. Dave has said the least here. What do you got, Dave?
I'm trying to maintain an air of decorum here.
Talking too slow, though.
I'm talking too slowly. Oh no. I would say that
Have you tried taking amphetamines?
You said
Let him
I'm
finish.
on
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm
Finish
on
it.
an amphetamine. Yes.
Yes, I'm on Adderall. So yeah, I feel you.
I'm
Man.
on
You guys
Vyvanse.
am I arguing with?
We're all have
people?
ADHD.
Anyway, go ahead.
Let's
Go ahead,
go.
please. KO Dave.
Okay.
KO
Let's
Dave.
go.
KO Dave,
When you're talking about these fair, well thought out like restrictions, what kinds of restrictions do you consider well thought out and fair?
Okay,
And how do you arrive at that decision, and how do you ensure that in the future the mechanism you put in place to arrive at that decision is not abused by an illiberal incoming administration?
Okay, I'm getting to be a broken record saying this, and I hope let's just hope this time it sinks because I'm going to come from a calm place. Okay,
You just say I don't know because that's what you've said every other time.
Let him say it. Let him say it. Let him say it. Let him go. Let him go.
You're not helping Rabbit.
What I'm saying here is that risk exists all the time, no matter what. Okay, that
Correct.
some law.
Correct.
Okay, some law, some piece of legislation can be abused. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be abused. We can have a No Torture Puppies Act, and it will be abused. It's like, well, he's technically 9 months and 1 day, so he's not a puppy.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let me ask you. Let me ask you,
Isn't.
please, Schwengo, and just
Hold on.
go with
I
me.
didn't get to answer his question though. Hold on.
Have you not finished your answer? Finish your answer, but then I want to talk to you. Go ahead.
Okay. So like one example is this. I mean, it has to be fleshed out. Okay, but you cannot profit from broadcasting lies.
Who decides what's a lie? But no, let me ask you. Let me ask you. Let me ask you just directly.
Now we can put scales on it. I mean, like if it's a 800 subscriber YouTuber propping lies, that is not an issue of concern.
Okay. My problem is that Trump would say that anyone saying that the 2020 election was free and fair is a liar, and I would get fined for saying that.
So
okay, but
your law depends on
hold on.
The other way.
You acknowledge that I am always at risk of getting into a car. Even sitting here right now, I am at risk. A car could break through this wall right now and run me over. That's a risk that I am facing just by existing in a land.
I don't know about
cars.
a car, but maybe a meteorite. Yeah.
No, a car. No, literally a car could come through my wall right now. The road's right out there. It could just barrel in, and I would
make an awesome clip.
Right?
But Wick lives in the middle of a highway.
If I was driving 90 miles per hour drunken on a highway, my risk of being killed by a car would rise astronomically. So while yes, the risk would always exist, one situation has a much greater risk. So when you try to deflect criticism,
that's why we put restrictions.
Hold on, let me finish. Hold on, let me finish. Shut up. When you try to deflect criticism for us saying, hey, there's a risk that this is being abused by saying things, well, there's always a risk, that is feckless and impotent because we recognize that, yes, there's always technically a risk, but the risk is far greater in the situations that you're proposing.
So would you say that we put restrictions on drinking and driving? Have we put restrictions
would you say
on
that people do it anyway?
And driving?
Sure, we should have
those
so
would you say that people do it anyway?
And
there should be consequences for them. That's our point.
Speech is not drinking and driving. Okay, you're equating things that are not the same. Speech, my words are not drinking and driving. My words are operating at 10,000.
Can be as poisonous.
Let me jump in here because I don't want to get too far away from.
Of course, a stranger needs to believe
Unchained.
Rabbit, you said you don't want to help.
No, well, I don't want to help him. So my concern though. Because the devil, you always say, well, it's the details, and the devil is in the details, and you want to just do the virtuous signaling at the start that this is bad and we should change it, but then you don't ever provide the details. And your point right now... What do you mean?
I gave an example to Dave. What are you talking about?
No, because your point was, well, we just have to make them loose enough that we will just rely on the good faith and the good judgment of police and prosecutors so that these laws are used in an equitable and proper manner. And
okay, hold on.
I
Let me
think there's a lot of people on the left that are going to support leaving it in the hands. They don't even want to leave it in the hands of NBA refs, let alone police.
Does the U.S. legal system work broadly?
Yes.
You're telling me it doesn't?
Yes.
Doesn't it? Are you saying
He's Canadian? He doesn't know.
Okay, right.
know.
Sorry.
Yeah,
talking
well,
about?
it
Let me
works. I'll just see to you. Yes, the current
Okay,
legal
are
system
By the way, this
broadly-
xenophobia in
Are there
pursuit of knowledge
fuck-ups in
will
the legal
be
US
one of the
system?
first things
Hey, if
that
it's up
puts
to
you against the
if it was up
wall
to me, it
when
wouldn't be
Schwangel
xenophobic
Unchained
anymore.
gets his way.
Are there fuck-ups in the U.S. legal system?
Yes.
Do they impact people terribly?
Yes.
Yet the system works very well broadly.
Yes.
Oh my hell! You understand now?
Sure.
No.
But we're saying the exact same thing
No.
about the First Amendment.
They have
motherfucker.
scales.
No, because what you're saying
They have
is, well, what
scales.
about these?
You
ones?
just
What
made
about
our
these
argument
instances where
about the
something could
legal
happen?
system only in reference to the First Amendment. Sure, the First Amendment, it works. There's problems with it. Some people are hurt by it, but on the whole, it is far better than the alternatives.
But
You
it's
literally
not.
just made our argument in favor of the justice system.
Because you
only
know,
we use it in
because guess
favor
what?
of the
Hold on,
First
no.
Amendment.
Guess what?
And we have
the legal
historical
system- the
perspectives
legal
going
system
back
exists because
hundreds
laws-
to thousands
No,
of
no.
years.
Quiet,
What
listen,
happens
listen.
if you
Hey.
don't have these liberal ideas, especially the right to life and the right to freedom of speech
Listen, all right.
enshrined?
You syrup sucking puck slapper.
A
Listen.
Canadian beat you on the First Amendment. Damn.
No,
that's
no.
shameful.
Because
No, he
listen,
didn't.
hold on. No.
Damn.
He just
Yeah.
talks slow. That's all he does. Like
We're upgrading from 5th grade to 7th.
Hey, we have free speech
Let's
laws in
listen.
Canada too. Okay.
Let's listen. We're upgrading.
you're
from 5th
Canadian
grade to 7th
too?
grade.
What the fuck? Wait, what is this?
All right. Hold on. Check it out.
Wick has called in the
You
Canadian
agreed.
National Guard to school Americans on their First Amendment.
You agreed.
I'm sorry that
the
my
legal
accent
system.
is not as thick as
Listen.
Rabbit's.
Shut.
No.
Listen.
Like,
You agreed that the legal system broadly works, but the legal system is based on what? Laws. What's another analogous
Fourth
term for
Amendment.
laws? Rules. Oh,
When you
so now
change
that
those
there's
rules, okay,
inflicted
well,
on
let me ask you
something,
this. When
and now
if
it
we
can be
decided
enforced
to
within a
change the
broad-
legal system, do you recognize that there is a risk that the legal system could become worse?
Oh my God. Pursuit, help me out here. I've
I mean-
just like for the 10th time. Yes, it can
Yes,
always
of
get
course.
worse.
Okay,
There's always a risk.
what we are saying
But-
is that
but-
your
but that goes along with
advocacy
the-
has
that's-
a track record. It has a proven track record throughout, again, as Rabbit has referenced, thousands of years of history of always,
internet or without
always making it worse.
With the
Every
internet or without
single
it.
time. But yours is magically going to be different because
You're
I don't know why.
ignoring all of the factors in the equation
The
again.
Do we
Internet?
not restrict
Really not.
speech on the radio? Yes or no, Wick?
We
Not through-
we censor
not
words.
through-
We don't censor ideas.
No Canadian speaking,
through-
please. I know that's too
not-
many
We don't
here.
censor
Please, Wick.
ideas. We censor words. Like you can't say the F word on the radio, but you can say.
Why
Can
not?
anyone
That's
get
a
a radio?
violation of the
Can
freedom of
anyone
speech.
get a
Why not?
radio station? Can anyone open up? Can I have a
Yes.
radio station from my office?
Yes.
I think
No, you
so,
can't,
yeah.
idiot.
Yes,
no,
you can.
you can't. You
You
can't
can. You
do
can-
pirate radio.
You just have to get the
can't do
license.
pirate radio. You
cannot
have to be
broadcast
registered by the
on
FCC.
terrestrial
You-
radio.
So the answer is
Correct.
yes.
You
FCC,
cannot
hold on,
do that.
hold on.
The answer is yes, you could have a
the
radio
FCC
station, you
cannot
just have to
deny you
register.
registration based on what you want to say.
Yeah. That's the point.
Yeah.
That's
the
why.
FCC
You
does
That's
not
why.
but
deny
there still
you
are-
a
there's still
registration based on
parameter-
whatever
there's
you
still
want to
parameters that
say.
you have to go through. You still have to ID yourself to the government, correct?
I'm actually not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can't be
You want a radio
anonymous
station, yeah.
to
No, you do.
register.
Yeah, it's like if you want to get a domain name.
If you
have
want to
to
start a
you-
radio station, if you're going to
in order to
broadcast,
reg-
you have to register your name, address, the location where you're
That's
broadcasting.
what I'm
from, all
advocating
that stuff.
for. I think we should have some, and the reason is to have some accountability, to have a barrier to entry, and to have a way to understand that the internet is a place that not anyone is allowed, not everyone is allowed. It would get rid of
They
a
are
big
there.
problem with getting rid of bots. Get rid of, the whole dead internet theory that we're just all talking to bots and the bots are just talking to each other. That would be a huge way that we could get rid of that. Here's the problem. I don't think the United States would want to do it because we're really good at influencing other countries and other countries are really good at influencing us using the internet. But I think that you guys should be advocating for a way to get rid of any sort of just total freedom of speech, and we should have accountability for free speech online.
You can have
The only way you're going to get that is with
my example
the
is
accountability should
TV
not
stations.
include the government being able to punish you for your speech.
Then
I'm
who
not
else is
talking
going
about
to?
that, Wick. I never said that.
we are. Why are you
I was
here
not
if you're
advocating
not?
for that, Wick.
You're arguing something
You never
completely
listened to
different from
that.
the initial point.
Are you
If you're arguing
on?
I'm
Here's a
advocating
question.
for there should be
is a different
accountability
argument.
for what you say. Okay,
Here's
there
a
should be
question I have.
accountability. I should be able to point out, like you were talking about earlier.
What
Wick,
should be the accountability
if-
becomes a question. Because I
Yeah.
don't disagree that there should be accountability. If I come on here and I start spouting nonsense like we should restrict the First Amendment, I think people should hold me accountable for that. How they hold me accountable for it is the question. If their accountability includes, I just don't want to listen to you
I'm not
anymore,
talking about
that's
random
their
internet people
accountability.
doing that.
So
I'm
when
not
you
talking
say
about random internet
accountability,
people. I'm
you
talking
have to be
about-
specific. What do you mean?
I'm
No,
talking
in good
about
faith, to pursuit of knowledge, I have to agree that on the accountability part, because just like I said earlier, if a rally happens and people go to municipalities and everything, say we don't want that here, get rid of it, and then they decide, yeah, okay, you guys can't have this kind of rally here anymore. That's the accountability. That's accountability. But the only thing is this accountability thing. That accountability is going to be community driven. Now, is there going to be accountability operated from the government side?
No,
is there going to be?
You're just wrong though on your thing that you can't. If someone has a lawful permit to exercise their First Amendment right to protest in a park, the community cannot. They literally, that's the Skokie case, right?
I think the
tried
point is
to stop
counter
that.
protest. I think he's talking about counter protesting.
Well, there's
Or
a
they have
counter
to go to the
protest, and
city
then
and
there's
try and get
also
them to
the whole
revoke the
decency. Each municipality or whatnot will have decency and like order clauses and shit in their local laws and whatnot. And sometimes that can be operated, and it's just because, it's not there. It's not there to restrict free speech or whatever. It's there to just not allow rallies in those kind of places. So
Free
in
speech
your-
zones.
In your radio show, are you allowed to operate your radio show under a pseudonym? If a guest comes on, are they allowed to come on? Are they
the
allowed
government,
to
the
come on?
government
Yeah.
has your information, but you can still go
Yeah.
on the air. And
No, they
say,
don't.
"I'm-"
You don't have to have you don't have to report to the government
Bingo.
everyone who comes on your show. I don't have to report,
Yeah.
for example, your guys' names to the government if I held
Sure.
a radio show.
Yeah.
Sure.
Everybody here agrees that people should be held accountable for their speech. We are arguing about how and who, and the main contention is whether the government should be able to hold people.
I think you should be held
for
accountable
speech.
for talking so
And
slow and so.
This is
I think more and more.
the way you should be
I'm getting mad at him for going to speed limit.
I
That's
am
rude.
literally a professionally trained communications professional,
Holy shit!
and you could
get
learn
paid for this?
something from how
You don't get
I
paid for this. There's no
do.
fucking way.
I get
To be
paid
fair,
for
I've
this.
understood
And
everything.
gang, if
Rabbit
you're
said.
enjoying this content and you want it to keep going, keep giving me money because, gang, I'm tired. I'm hungry. So unless I get about, let's say, $100 in the next 10 minutes, we're gonna close it down. So if you like,
If
this
you want to
content,
bring
you
on
wanna keep
Joe
this
again, you'll
going,
get another $100.
Schwango,
Give me
Schwango, put him
money.
in jail for that dangerous speech.
The government should not step in and censor speech to the degree that Schwango Unchained is saying that they should be able to. You
What
shouldn't be
extent am I
able
saying?
to
What
pull.
extent am I saying? Where's the line? Tell me.
You are
where's the line?
literally
Wait,
saying that you
are you trying to censor his speech? That's fucked up, man.
I mean, that's what he's asking for. So
Well,
he
yeah,
should-
no, I'm asking. Listen,
But
I'm
Rabbit has
asking-
no authority.
I'm asking
Because he's Canadian. True. Good point.
No, because he's not the host of the show. If
I'm
Wick kicked him
asking
off,
I'm asking for no different than any other thing we do in any other way in our everyday lives. We have restrictions and limitations that fit under a liberal framework that uses the Bill of Rights with empathy as the Constitution as the vessel.
So
Okay.
would you say that Canada has more evolved and more effective speech laws than the United States?
No, because you guys are a little too left and a little too cringe for me.
But we're in the direction you want to go, though, right? Do you
No.
think that we've overcorrected, and that's your
No,
issue
I
with
think
what we've done?
I think center left liberalism is where it's at.
First
Yeah,
off,
that's
you
where
know
we're at.
you are
Canadian speech law-
advocating
that.
for something that is antithetical to liberalism.
No, I'm trying to get it back there.
I mean,
is what I'm doing.
No, you're fucking
I don't know how much-
catastrophic. You're fucking for
I don't know how much.
man.
Hey,
I don't know how
Schwego,
much sailing you've done, but you're trying to hold a course just based off of the plot line alone, and not with any additional metric to it.
Okay, what are to the uneducated Americans here?
Given, listen.
What is the Canadian free
you don't have
speech
to say
laws that are
uneducated Americans? You can just say Americans.
okay? So, okay, ha 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 ha. Someone censor this man. Anyway, what is the censorship that's so great going on in the by the penguins up there? Oh wait, no, that's polar bears.
That's in Antarctica.
Well, they can't complain about it, right? They literally can't complain about it. They will be arrested, right? So
first rule of Canada's speech laws is don't talk about Canada's speech laws.
Canada's speech laws.
Like they can't actually tell you, right? Well, I'm not kidding. So
we really? I don't know
kidding.
this. I don't know this.
He's kidding.
Is that a joke? Okay, all right.
I think the biggest what's the word I'm looking for? I think the biggest departure from American speech laws is that we have hate speech laws.
Yep. We have a human rights tribunal as well.
Don't we have hate speech laws?
Yeah.
No,
okay. Well, no, but here's
no hate speech laws in the United States.
No.
A comedian on stage told a joke
we have
about a person in, I think they were in a wheelchair. They had some form of disability, and they made a joke about their disability. A person in the audience, that person in the audience sued them, and the comedian had to pay them because they went to a human rights tribunal, which means that the tribunal itself tries the person on government dollar. The person defending themselves has to pay for their lawyer themselves. And the end of that case was that the Canadian had to pay, it was like $20,000 or $30,000 in restitution to this person because they made a joke on stage. I'll find you the link.
Okay.
All right, so everyone's kind of losing focus about what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is, and primarily, the Wick, our conversation started in this, okay? People that propagate lies for profit at scale. That's the main issue. That's the main contention because it's gotten us to where we are. No,
I don't disagree with you, Schwego. I don't disagree with you, but you kind of lose me because there's a real problem with defining what is a lie. And I know, and the only reason why I say this is because as humans, we have this tendency. I mean, look at religion, where we can believe something to be true even though it's not, and it's the effect of us as a group because we're social animals. We're able to turn that into a truth even though it was a lie.
Right. But no matter how wacky some of it gets in Christian land sometimes, okay, by and large, it's pretty moderate.
Not just Christian, any.
Okay, yeah, sure, but you said Christianity, so I'm using, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, but like by and large, Christianity is pretty damn moderate. Like even with some of the wacky people, even with the Joel Osteens and all that, it's pretty moderate. It's not fucking up geopolitics.
Bro.
It did. It did in the past.
No,
hold on.
Outside of a liberal framework, they killed each other for hundreds of years.
No. I put you down this wrong road. No, Schwegmo. No. Yeah. Oh, now. Okay.
It's not right now.
Hold on.
Not as bad.
Because we have things like freedom of speech where one group can't get political power, say that the other group is lying when they say Allah is there's no prophet, they'll go up by God, and Allah and Muhammad's his prophet, right?
Yeah,
and
that was
so people don't kill each other over that, right?
Okay, but guess what though? But we have empiric ways that we can determine on whether Allah is God,
okay, so what you were saying is that if we cannot empirically determine that God is real, that someone could not say God is real under your conditions.
No, that's not what I said at all.
You were saying that you were, again, to punish lies, people spreading lies. And if the government determines that religion is a lie, or Islam is a lie, or Christianity is a lie.
Guess what? Because it still fits within, it's still within a liberal framework because it's not, like what happens is if you, to the point you're saying, if someone were to say, they say God is God is real, and now they're propagating lies, and they should be jailed. That's not what I'm advocating. Okay, what I'm saying is actually the other way. If someone says if you deny that God is real, you should be jailed. That's outside the bounds.
Both are bad.
That's outside and that they should push for people to be jailed. Like if Sean Hannity went on the air and said anyone that said God isn't real should be jailed. Like he's flirting on that line now. He's flirting on the line of that's too far.
Now, if it gains traction, it's actually gone too far. If it doesn't gain traction, okay, fine, because it didn't manifest in an issue of concern.
I think
Okay, but
people
you're
should be
saying
able to
people who say the wrong thing should be jailed.
Yeah,
So how are you
basically.
different than him?
Holy shit!
Mhm.
It's like, are you?
It's not
are
wrong
you
thing. It's
intentionally not listening to the
lies.
nuance?
Yeah. He's talking
Which
about
is the
Okay,
wrong
lies.
so
Well,
so what
no.
kind of lies that
Yeah,
men
what
can be
lie
women?
was he saying
that-
there? He
is
had a
that the lie?
political
Yeah,
opinion.
who determines the lie?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. That's what I'm saying. Because some people would say that men can be women is a lie.
If we had an Islamic minister of truth, he could say the Christian God is a lie. And then if we had a Christian minister of truth, he could say the Islamic God is a lie.
Again,
And
the
this could go
Jehovah's
on.
the one
wait,
true
wait,
God.
wait.
Remember,
What
we
bigger
still
lie
need to
is there
operate
than that?
within. We still need to operate within the Bill of Rights in that way. In that Bill of
But you
Rights,
wanna
does it?
change
Bill
Does
of
it
Rights
say you
doesn't
have a right
allow
to
you to do
believe
what
in
you
whatever
want
deity
to
you
do.
want?
But that's what we're saying.
Bill of Rights does not allow you to do
exact
what you want to do.
The exact protections that you claim will protect us are the ones that you want to erode. And we keep saying that the solution that we already have is better than the one that you are proposing.
But
And you
it's
seem to think
but
so as
it's
well, because
not.
every time
It's got
you
us into
say
the
it
position we're
might be
in.
abused, you are referencing the protections, the very protections that we are trying to ensure remain institutionalized in the country.
No, what is happening is it's a very weak attempt at saying, well, hold on. It's what me and Wick started with. Well, let's take the moral high ground. It's like, yeah, we'll take the moral high ground right into Trump's third presidency.
What you were advocating for will ensure Trump reigns for the next 1,000 years because he will make it illegal to. He will say that anything that is said against him is classified as a lie, and it will be prosecuted by the government.
He's already doing that.
No,
he's
oh
not.
my
He's
God, you
not.
haven't seen nothing.
I mean,
yet,
he literally
baby.
is suing and winning against these
not winning,
these
they're
all these
settling.
law firms, right?
He's not
Did he
winning,
not get
they're
settlements
settling,
from them?
which is different.
Yeah.
Wait, what's the difference?
He's suing corporations and law
That's still
firms.
winning.
The difference is corporations and law firms. The individual still has the freedom of the speech. The Krasensteins can still go out there, talk all the shit they want on Trump, and not face any consequence for it.
I mean, doesn't he want to try to deport Rosie O'Donnell?
Yes.
Has he deported
Yeah,
Rosie
he can't
O'Donnell?
do it.
So can we agree that words can lead to bad actions?
Has Rosie O'Donnell been deported?
Not yet.
Well, hold on, wait. We can agree on that.
If I threaten
Words
to kill
can lead.
someone, are the police going to pay attention to me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I missed what you said.
Yeah,
Yes,
I missed what you said.
if you make a death threat, right? That is illegal.
Yeah.
That is one of the restrictions we do already
Yeah.
have.
That is a
under the First
violent
Amendment,
threat. That is
right?
incitement.
to
That
violence.
is
Incitement.
harm.
Okay, so if I say if I threaten to stalk somebody, will the police pay attention to me?
Yes.
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 But I'm not killing someone.
Okay,
It's still
we
a
already
threat.
have this
Violence.
baked
Okay,
into our current
follow
system.
the logic. Follow the logic.
Oh boy. Okay.
We started at severe with murder. We went to less severe with stalking.
It is all
Police
about
are still
writing the
paying attention.
line. Yes. Yeah. It's all about writing the line. I think, yes.
But
we
what
get
you're
what you're saying.
advocating for isn't that I'm going to do X. You're advocating that if someone says, I think Trump is based, or I think that...
Okay, that was a joke. Obviously, that was a joke when I
but
said that.
anything that you would consider a lie, right, be
Because that
prosecuted.
is a lie.
Oh my God, it's a joke, but it's a lie. But it's a joke, but it's a lie. You understand that it's a joke, but it's the example we have to operate off of, right? Let's just use it as the example. Let's operate it.
Supposed to fixate on.
Let's operate it as the prime example. If somebody says Trump is base and it's a lie, what happens to them? Do they go to jail?
I mean, again, here's the thing. This is where the sausage gets made. It's the same thing I've been trying to tell you. Okay, using even a silly example like that. Using even a silly example like saying Trump is base is a lie. Does it manifest in a way that is damaging to the country?
Who gets to decide what is damaging to the country?
See, I don't want to just flat out say it. I would rather operate the conversation to this way. But you're talking about things that operate in civil litigation.
But these things change. It changes. Like you keep trying to pin me down for these exact examples, but it changes on the scale.
Yes, it changes on the scale
If it's
in civil litigation.
No, it's not a problem. Just like murder in this country, if it's isolated, it's not a problem. If it is a problem. It's a problem. You get my point. Like it's not a thing that we like. If there are 50 murders a year, do we have a problem with murder?
Yes.
Yeah, because we still have 50 murders a year. That's still technically a problem.
Okay, but let me ask you this:
It's time with degrees.
Is it worse or better to have 5,000 murders a year?
Exactly. Yeah.
Worse.
Obviously worse to have
Murders are
5,000.
Obviously worse. Okay, so in 330 million people, if there's 50 murders a year and there's literally nothing we can do to stop murder, that means you have an infinitesimal murder rate.
Right.
Objectively, it's
But
not
it's still
really
a problem. And
even though
objectively,
it's bad.
What?
speech in
Okay,
America
what's your
is not
point with
really a
this? What's your
problem.
point with this? Like, where are you going with this?
The point I'm getting at is if you compare a 2,000 subscribed person on YouTube spitting obvious lies and it doesn't manifest in anything, yes, we keep an eye on it, but like we allow it to happen. But when Alex Jones is allowed to say these horrible things about, like, I mean, let's not even start with Sandy Hook. Let's move on to the other obvious bullshit lies he says. And it translates into people willingly electing a quasi fascist leaning person. It has manifested into a gigantic fucking problem.
If Alex
It's
Jones had
because of the
800
internet.
subscribers,
It's because of the internet. That's the
if Alex
reason.
Jones
That's
had
what I'm getting
800
at.
subscribers, if Alex Jones had 800 subscribers and someone still harassed those families, which is what led to the civil lawsuit that led to him having to pay so much money, should we just say it's arbitrary because he's only got 800 subscribers?
No, because I use that example as trying to ground it in metrics. I use that example as trying to ground it in metrics. Yes, if it's still an 800 sub and it still leads to families being harassed, yes,
I'm just
they should
saying,
still be punished.
bro. And I'm going to end here soon, and you know, we've gone long enough, but I'll give you the last word. But I will just say this to close this out. First of all, thank you all for coming. Tomorrow, I'm going to be going on the Admiral Gibbs panel to talk about Ukraine and Russia and the Alaskan summit with Putin. That should be brain rot. Okay.
Good luck.
No.
On Thursday, we have a double header. On Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, Soy Pill and his gang of cronies will be coming on to tell me why I'm an incel. And why I'm incel adjacent.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, no, that's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie.
Hold on. Hold on. At 11 p.m. Eastern that same night, so Thursday night, Andrew Wilson has bravely challenged me to another debate on Christian nationalism, and we're going.
Is he paying you 20,000?
I'm going to be arguing.
Is this the boxing match?
No. I'm going to be.
Are you bringing a jar of pickles?
I'm going to be arguing that Christian nationalism is worse than progressivism, right? That a progressive status quo is better than a Christian nationalist nation would be. And, well, it's going to be the opposite. He's going to be arguing. He's got the affirmative, right? The prompt is Christian nationalism better than the progressive status quo? No, it's not. And we'll be arguing with that, and that'll be fun. On Friday, we're going to have a debate on AI. I need one more AI hater, so if you hate AI, hit me up. And then on Saturday, we got a long week this week, gang. Saturday, Bentham's Bulldog will be coming on to debate Admiral Gibbs about whether or not Trump is a good president. With that said, my closing statement to Mr. Schwengo here is this, that the solutions that you were proposing, we have historical examples where they not only were not effective, but they were counter-effective, that they led, when you censor someone, what you do is you risk feeding into, right, their kind of persecution complex. You make it real in a real sense. And they can point to the government and say, look, you have made it much. The government actually is after me. They're trying to silence me for saying the truth. Actually, famously, this worked in Weimar Germany. The Weimar Germans tried to censor Nazism. They shut down over 200 publications to stop it, right? Like newspapers and things. They threw him in jail, right? They censored him.
And the judge let him out. That was the problem.
They censored. He wasn't allowed to speak at these rallies. So you know what the Nazis did? They made a poster with Hitler, and they had his mouth gagged, and it translated something to this effect: that there are 5 million people in Germany, and only one is not allowed to speak. It actually helped him gain power. The censorship actually helped him gain power. So what I'm arguing to you today, right, is that the censorship that we had tried to do on the right, which we did, we tried to kick him off Twitter, we tried to kick him off all these things. actually led to MAGA gaining more power. People took them more seriously. And you advocating for giving the government the chance and the ability to decide what is and is not lies is far, far more dangerous than just letting it be a Wild West free-for-all. And we have historical examples of this. This is proven time and again. I don't know what to tell you. I'll let you have the last word. Like I said, go ahead, Schwengo.
All right. I'm really, really hoping that you wake up. And what I mean by that is what you're doing, what I hear is like for the Revolutionary War, what I hear you say is time and time again, lining up in a straight line and pointing muskets at each other is the way warfare is fought. Time and again, it's been proven to be successful when their opponent is using guerrilla warfare and winning. And if you don't adapt to the new tactics being used, aka the internet, because it's a new technology, it's a new thing. Nobody knows how to control it. Nobody knows how to wield it. And using your fear of what possibly could be versus what is actually happening in front of you, and your refusal to adapt and evolve into the new landscape, all of your if the internet didn't exist, your historical arguments would be correct, but they're irrelevant. It's like the addition of gunpowder to warfare from using swords and shields and bows. You're overmatched. You're completely overmatched by your enemy.
And we have historical examples on how to curb it.
Correct.
With the internet, using with talking about books, the printing press, talking about newspapers, talking about radio, talking about TV. Yes, the first when those inventions first come out, they're going to be used for evil, like Hitler did. But we're able to bring it back and reel it in, correct?
With rules and laws.
We need to have some control over it, not full. And just because he called himself a victim, just like Trump did, doesn't mean he automatically gets a win. That's not how that works.
That happens when, in the beginning of this, when we don't put crazies in check.
Okay.
Just like the progressives. Just like the progressive. That's why.
He's going to kick. Look at it. He's about to kick us off and get rid of our freedom of speech. What the fuck?
Listen, no, Wick. Listen, honestly, Wick. I mean it. I mean it in the beginning when I said this. I love your content. I love you, buddy. I agree with you 90%.
We'll get you to 100 soon. Okay.
Well, yes. As soon as you realize
you, Schwango.
As soon as you realize you're not fighting the enemy you think you are.
Before I get kicked off, a chatter in Wix chat asked me to show off Soundwave. So here's Soundwave.
This is why we need hard R liberals, okay? Liberals who aren't afraid to defend liberalism against the illiberal people who would censor your speech. I don't want the government to have the power to tell you what is a lie and what is not. I want you, the people, to decide what you believe and not have the government, a nanny state, daddy White House, right? Daddy Trump or Daddy Biden, for that matter, be able to tell you what is real, what is true, and what the world is. I want you, the individual, to be able to decide for yourself. And that's what I advocate for, and that's what I will protect, because it's important to protect. Free speech makes free people. And to the extent that we curtail speech, you no longer have a free people. Thank you for your time. Peace out, Girl Scouts.